Moon Platoon, what's going on? How's it going? We got AMC GME running two retracements that they have not yet gone to in a long time. AMC hitting that 44.46. That's 261% retracement of that January squeeze, that gamma squeeze, and GameStop hitting 255, both of which we were able to predict thanks to those retracement analysis that we've done in the past. But have hedge funds actually learned their lesson? That's what we're going to answer today. Right before the bell opens, we got this authentic stock market bell thanks to the Moon Platoon sending something in the P.O. box to yours truly. So we're going to ring this in just about 30 seconds. We got Josh Buckner. We got Trey's Keyboard. Devil Gamer. What's going on, guys? The easier it is to get started in the day, the easier it is to be able to talk about that stock market. So we haven't been here since a moonless night in the past few months because it's 6:30 a.m. in the morning. What's going on, Smoking a Joke? And Jay Encenia, LFG. We have AMC currently trending about % underneath its pre-market start, and then we have GameStop currently 1.5% up after a 6% rip yesterday. Now remember, that's a 25% rip at the height of 255. So it is a go time or slow time for these two stocks, and that's why we're gonna ring that bell right now. Markets are open. All right, Professor Meatball is right behind, making sure that the analysis and the data is crystal clear. We have some runners in the morning. We got Tesla up 1.5%, currently hitting that 1200. Now, is this an all-time high for Tesla? Getting close to it as we just pushed through over a new level of resistance in the pre-market at $1,250 mark. AMC currently trending between two levels of resistance right here, $40 and $41.58, both of which had been some sticky resistance, especially in the beginning of the pre-market right here. So if $41.58 is what we're currently waiting for AMC to break above. So let's make sure that we understand that GameStop has an incentive to try to push to 230 right here in the pre-market. So look at 3.5% and running. All right, so will GameStop once again do a 255 resistance reach? Will it blast through 3 more levels of resistance and hit that 25% rip again? Right now, it seems like it's already on its way. AMC, on the other hand, still trending right above that $40 level of mental support. So that mental barrier right there. We got Joys of Tanika Paul, great name by the way. Zero, the Guitar Hero. We got Brian Tarantino. We got Swing Threes. We got Good Times Catfishing, TJTC, Nazmi Ozkan. Hello, Andrew. What's going on? Taco Barbacoa, Jackson Bowerle. We got Bader Modu. Good to see you. Same as the mornings here in Amsterdam at this time of the year, but rockets will be lighting up the dark month of November. Oh. GME hit a 227 early in the day, and now currently still trending right underneath that VWAP. The volumetric weighted average price has been set to a high bar just earlier today. Let's bring this back here so we can see the historics from the last few hours of trading. PS, what's going on? iNomad, Robert Burwell, Ryan Hunt, Lucas, GHGF. Oh, the stock market is always open. No, yeah, stock market is already open. What's going on, iNomad? Always good to hear your voice and find me live. How's it going? A Willis, M Maximus C, how's it going? All right, AMC is about to cross into the green, just 0.5% down underneath its market open. We know that you guys are wondering what the hedge fund mistakes are and whether or not they've learned. Well, Jim Cramer is someone who is going to throw his hat in the ring once again to talk about why more companies are going to reach meme stock status until short sellers admit their mistakes and learn from them. Let's take a look at what he's talking about.
Lots of money managers wanted a piece of Hertz, its competitor, which was cheaper than Avis and had a better story. But the ones who run what's known again as a balanced book needed something to protect them from the downside. So when they went long Hertz, they shorted Avis. They didn't understand that they get wrecked if we got any good news. So when Avis reported a blowout quarter thanks to the auto shortage, the stock exploded and the shorts got to experience what it feels like to lose more than 100% of your money. Now, what matters here is what didn't matter. And that's the traditional valuation metrics that so many money managers come on air or in the papers or tell their investors is what really matters. Should Avis have added $10 billion in enterprise value due to a single quarter? No, it shouldn't have. It is superficial. Should Bed Bath run like this when it recently reported some not so hot numbers? I can spin out a story about how Bye Baby division could be worth the current price of the entire company. Something I tried this very morning, but Triton wouldn't take the bait. Otherwise, no, probably wasn't. But at the end of the day, these stocks are like GameStop.
Mini Mayhem, good to see you.
In that, at their highs of the...
All right, he's going to talk about AMC in just a second. Benny Russ, what's going on? Jorge DeLucas, Muhammad, how's it going? We got Smoking a Jokin', Jackson, and Mad Hatter. Good morning, guys. Let me just take a look at your messages in a second.
They did divorce themselves from the fundamentals. It happened. Now, maybe the better comparisons are Netflix.
AMC just broke to green.
Fortunes in the face of heavy shorting, even though their valuations were totally unjustifiable until many, many years later. Netflix and Amazon were about superior producers, whereas GameStop and AMC are something about the mechanics of the market. I don't think anyone honestly believed these stocks deserved to trade as high as they did early last year.
There
but
he
the
is.
buyers took their cue from Clint Eastwood in Unforgiven. They realized that deserves got nothing to do with it. There were simply too many short sellers who had to capitulate, and their surrender sent the stocks into the stratosphere. That's what we saw in Avis yesterday and in Bed Bath this morning. Again, this is the revolution, okay? These are people who typically have not owned stocks. They come in, they buy them up, and cause the short sellers to capitulate, which is probably right here, and then the short sellers probably come back at the end of the day. But they're about to get hit again. Now, there will always be shorts that go awry.
Oh, man. PBTS, sure. Take a look. We'll take a look in a second. Oh, she's trying to run. So AMC has now just hit a 41.30 high. That's 20 cents underneath that level of resistance at 41.58 before getting a knock back down to the VWAP here. I've highlighted in yellow to pay attention to the fact that $40.76 is the next level of dynamic support. But we are green. One candle, please. One boom boom candle.
Just yesterday. This is what happened. First, the stock got crushed, okay? People thought the numbers were going to be bad. And then they listened to the conference call. They realized they were on the wrong side of the tree.
Run for the hills, you fooly fools.
It was a good quarter. See, the hedge funds bet against it because they figured the Chinese business would be hammered, not unlike Nike.
Good morning from France. What's up, Adrian?
Fingerprints of hedge funds all over this mistaken thesis. Also, sizable bet against a company that we all know now is worth every penny, Moderna. Every step of the way. That would hurt to watch because the bull thesis was so irresistible. They got a vaccine, we got a pandemic. Why would you bet against that? Might as well punch yourself in the face. But the bottom line, we now live in a world where individual investors like you have realized that they can destroy the short sellers whenever the short sellers get too overconfident. They know they can pressure the shorts and force them to capitulate, as I just showed you, whenever they crowd into a stock. And a bunch of short sellers surrendering en masse will indeed cause any stock to do what this did. And that's what created stocks like situations like Avis or Bed Bath, and it created GameStop, and it created AMC, and I bet we'll see many more of those until hedge funds learn their lesson. Stay away from crowded shorts.
Stay away from crowded shorts. Okay. I mean, the data you can find on Ortex, you can find it on ChatterQuant. These are just figures to the hedge funds. Look at PBTS. Look, setting up a 48-hour cup here, double topping at $1.93. And that's at this far right side of the cup. If you were awake during the after hours, you should have known that that is a bearish signal, which did drop PBTS back down to the low dollars, $1 era. $1.15 has been its support, and $1.45 has been its next level of resistance. Take a look at today's smaller rip. God, I wish I was here for yesterday's 25%. That would have been absolute insanity when GameStop hit a $255 resistance. GameStop still green on the day, now back down to the 222 level of support and waiting on it. All right, what's going on? Jackson saying, oh man, it's reminding of late May. Yeah, it's got some late May energy here. Patrick Motley says, Mo Money and Meatball in the morning. Woohoo. AMC got to do something good for this. Fantastic to see you guys here. Let me see. So More stocks are going to reach meme stock status in the future unless professional investors recognize market dynamics have changed. Makes sense. Hey, let's take a look at the data that they were talking about just a second ago. Avis had 20% of its shares available for trade sold short before it reported earnings Tuesday morning. Bed Bath & Beyond also had 27% of its float sold short. So those have still been heavily shorted stocks in the same field. All right, GameStop trading at 219, currently holding right below its EMA. Take a look at the morning breakdown right here. Maru is saying, should we put on our space suit? Make sure it fits. Now let me pay attention to... You guys probably have seen Jerome Powell's announcements about inflation yesterday. It's not believed that we are behind the curve. Fed decision is all boiling down to, you know, a parent with some training wheels behind their kid. The kid is the American economy. And whether or not they're going to let go of that bicycle was decided yesterday. They're not deciding to let go quite yet. Let me see if I can find a summary of his top announcements from yesterday. Here it is. Strong labor force. Transitory means different things to different people. Okay, here are his remarks. Good morning. What's up, Tom Tom? Mad Hatter bringing the margin calls back. Oh, man. GameStop creeping, crawling above that 219. Currently holding right here, 218.85. It's the daily low now. All right, let's talk about the Fed decision from yesterday.
We're strongly committed to achieving the monetary policy goals that Congress has given us: maximum employment and price stability. Today, the FOMC kept interest rates near zero, and in light of the progress the economy has made toward our goals, decided to begin reducing the pace of asset purchases. With these actions, monetary policy will continue to provide strong support to the economic recovery. Given the unprecedented nature of the disruptions related to the pandemic and the reopening of the economy, we remain attentive to risks and will ensure that our policy is well positioned to address the full range of plausible economic outcomes. I will say more about our monetary policy decisions after reviewing recent economic developments. Economic activity expanded at a 6.5% pace in the first half of the year, reflecting progress on vaccinations, the reopening of the economy, and strong policy support. In the third quarter, real GDP growth slowed notably from this rapid pace. The summer's surge in COVID cases from the Delta variant has held back the recovery in the sectors most adversely affected by the pandemic, including travel and leisure. Activity has also been restrained by supply constraints and bottlenecks, notably in the motor vehicle industry. As a result, both household spending and business investment flattened out last quarter. Nonetheless, aggregate demand has been very strong this year, buoyed by fiscal and monetary policy support and the healthy financial positions of households and businesses. With COVID case counts receding further and progress on vaccinations, economic growth should pick up this quarter, resulting in strong growth for the year as a whole. Conditions in the labor market have continued to improve, and demand for workers remains very strong. As with overall economic activity, the pace of improvement slowed with the rise in COVID cases. In August and September, job gains averaged 280,000 per month, down from an average of about 1 million jobs per month in June and July. The slowdown has been concentrated in sectors most sensitive to the pandemic, including leisure and hospitality and education. The unemployment rate was 4.8% in September. This figure understates the shortfall in employment, particularly as participation in the labor market remains subdued. Some of the softness in participation likely reflects the aging of the population and retirements. But participation for prime-aged individuals also remains well below pre-pandemic levels.
Prime-aged.
In part reflecting factors related to the pandemic, such as caregiving needs and ongoing concerns about the virus. As a result, employers are having difficulties filling job openings. These impediments to labor supply should diminish with further progress on containing the virus, supporting gains in employment and economic activity. The economic downturn has not fallen equally on all Americans, and those least able to shoulder the burden have been hardest hit. Despite progress, joblessness continues to fall disproportionately on African Americans and Hispanics. The supply and demand imbalances related to the pandemic and the reopening of the economy have contributed to sizable price increases in some sectors. In particular, bottlenecks and supply chain disruptions are limiting how quickly production can respond to the rebound in demand in the near term. As a result, overall inflation is running well above our 2% longer run goal. Supply constraints have been larger and longer lasting than anticipated. Nonetheless, it remains the case that the drivers of higher inflation have been predominantly connected to the dislocations caused by the pandemic.
So we have Sean Carter saying hi, Keith Cloverdale saying good morning, Andrew Meatball. Nice to see you. 222 watching, only 8 likes. Everyone, smash that like. The math does not make sense.
Specifically, the effects on supply and demand from the shutdown, the uneven reopening, and the ongoing effects of the virus itself. We understand the difficulties that high inflation poses for individuals and families, particularly those with limited means to absorb higher prices for essentials such as food and transportation. Our tools cannot ease supply constraints. Like most forecasters, we continue to believe that our dynamic economy will adjust to the supply and demand imbalances, and that as it does, inflation will decline to levels much closer to our 2% longer run goal. Of course, it is very difficult to predict the persistence of supply constraints or their effects on inflation. Global supply chains are complex. They will return to normal function, but the timing of that is highly uncertain.
We have a lot. Thank you, Off Duty, for the bless you. Ologist saying, Andrew, Mo Money, happy to see you, man. Can't wait for this bounce. The months since June have been long. Excited to see some actual price action.
We are committed to our longer run goal of 2% inflation and to having longer term inflation expectations well anchored at this goal. If we were to see signs that the path of inflation, or longer term inflation expectations, was moving materially and persistently beyond levels consistent with our goal, we would use our tools to preserve price stability. We will be watching carefully to see whether the economy is evolving in line with expectations. The Fed's policy actions have been guided by our mandate to promote maximum employment and stable prices for the American people, along with our responsibilities to promote the stability of the financial system. Our asset purchases have been a critical tool. They helped preserve financial stability early in the pandemic, and since then have helped foster smooth market functioning and accommodative financial conditions to support the economy. Last December, the committee stated its intention to continue asset purchases at a pace of at least $120 billion per month until substantial further progress has been made toward our maximum employment and price stability goals. At today's meeting, the committee judged that the economy has met this test and decided to begin reducing the pace of its asset purchases. Beginning later this month, we will reduce the monthly pace of our net asset purchases by $10 billion for Treasury securities and $5 billion for agency mortgage-backed securities. We also announced another reduction of this size in the monthly purchase pace starting in mid-December, since that month's purchase schedule will be released by the Federal Reserve Bank of New York prior to our December FOMC meeting. If the economy evolves broadly as expected, we judge that similar reductions in the pace of net asset purchases will likely be appropriate each month, implying that increases in our securities holdings would cease by the middle of next year. That said, we are prepared to adjust the pace of purchases if warranted by changes in the economic outlook. And even after our balance sheet stops expanding, our holdings of securities will continue to support accommodative financial conditions. Our decision today to begin tapering our asset purchases does not imply any direct signal regarding our interest rate policy. We continue to articulate a different and more stringent test for the economic conditions that would need to be met before raising the federal funds rate. To conclude, we understand that our actions affect communities, families, and businesses across the country. Everything we do is in service to our public mission. We at the Fed will do everything we can to complete the recovery in employment and achieve our price stability goal. Thank you. I look forward to your questions.
Shepard Smith here.
Thank you, Shep. So, end of the day of wondering exactly where the AMC signals are coming from. This is from ChatterQuant. So we were following for the last few weeks. Right now, what we have over on ChatterQuant is a series of alerts for GME. So here are those alerts. We got one for Tesla just from 5 minutes ago. One Tesla Olympic medal alert from 14. mRNA, we got GME about 9 hours ago. AMD, FSLY, Tesla, again, Roku, SPY, Amazon, QQQ, BBBY, Ocugen, and Ocugen again, as well as GME. So right now, let's see where Ocugen is in comparison to these other boys. Yeah, so let's see. Ocugen is mostly negative, and looking at whether or not this was going to go downside. Take a look at Lux Algo. Take a look at Ocugen ending the day around $12. Just lost about $2 of price action. Back to AMC. Let's see where the next level of support is. We got 38.88 right below, and that was where we bounced off from a day hitting 44.46 at its height, and then ultimately hitting right here on that support at $38. That said, looks like we're bouncing a little bit earlier on AMC, coming right above 39.11 as the daily low. We're looking at Facebook Meta. Oh god, it's so weird to call it something else. It's as if everyone blinked and everyone forgot. 1.5% up and climbing right now. All right, back to the minute chart here. GME has slipped to 211.55 as its low, then crawled back up to the next level of resistance at 214.90. Currently still performing right in those two levels of resistances. Now let me say hi to Indie Rad Mama. Good to see you. BTS Sandwich. Yesterday was beautiful. Yesterday was truly beautiful, but today a little bit different. You need the good days with the bad days. And in fact, this is honestly a day for getting right back into it. If you guys missed the mad rips the past few days, the market is saying, hey, hello. The bus is coming right around. Keith Cloverdale says, dude, they assassinated Ocugen. That's the thing here. And not everyone gets to run nonstop. That was only a part of what Jerome Powell said yesterday.
Strongly.
There, that's his remarks following the Fed decision. Hard to judge inflation without showing uncertainty. So let's take a look at whether or not there is going to be tapering or inflationary measures in the future.
Thank you. We'll go to Mike McKee at Bloomberg.
Come on, Mike.
Mr. Chairman, the critics of your patience policy argue that given the long and variable lags with which monetary policy works, that you are likely to end up, given inflation, by
What's up,
having
dear
to raise
Keston?
rates faster and farther than you
And
would have liked,
Donjin,
and
hello.
therefore send the economy into recession. Given the fact that basically your forecast has been chasing inflation over the last year, and now you're talking about it not coming down till the second or third quarter, why would they be wrong in thinking that?
Big bounce on these two stocks here.
Well, so let me say what's happened, and we're very, very straightforward about it, is that inflation is coming higher than expected, and bottlenecks have been more persistent and more prevalent. We see that just like everybody else does, and we see that they're now on track to persist well into next year. That was not expected by us, not expected by other macro forecasters. Now, let me say, it's difficult enough to just forecast the economy in normal times. When you're talking about, global supply chains in turmoil, it's a whole different thing. And you're talking about a pandemic that's holding people out of the labor force for reasons that we can sample, but we don't have a lot of experience with this. So it's very, very difficult to forecast and not easy to set policy. So we have to set policy though. So that's what we're doing. And, so to look at your question this way, I don't think that we're behind the curve. I actually believe that policy is well positioned to address the range of plausible outcomes. And that's what we need to do. I do think it would be premature to raise rates today. That's not, I don't think that's controversial. Certainly, I don't know anyone arguing for that today, and the reason is that there's still ground to cover to get to maximum employment, and we don't want to stop that when there's good reason to think. There's still good reason to think, although it's been delayed, clearly, there's good reason to think that the economy will reopen, particularly if we do get past, significant outbreaks of COVID. That's when we're really going to see what the characteristics of the labor market are. And, I think, the bottlenecks that we're seeing in global supply chains around goods, and frankly now at our own domestic ports, because demand is stronger than the capacity of those ports, those things are going to work themselves out. We have a flexible economy. It'll take some time, but, it took the experts managed to create a vaccine faster than certainly than I expected, and I think this stuff will work itself out over the course of next year. That is my baseline understanding, and that's very widely held among people. But we are prepared for different eventualities, and we will use our tools to achieve price stability and maximum employment. And we're going to let the data lead us to where we need to go. Our policy will adapt, and has already adapted to the changing understanding of inflation and of bottlenecks and the whole supply side story, which is also partly a demand story. So our policy will continue to adapt as is appropriate.
So they won't surprise markets even if they have to change the taper pace. I believe we have an economist that has something. They beg to differ. Someone who's not Jerome Powell, please.
Tapering is expected to be announced, and my next guest expects Jay Powell to strike a delicate balance. He's calling the taper two-step.
Taper two-step.
Stephen Stanley. He's chief economist at Amherst Pierpont Securities. Great to have you, Stephen. What do you mean by that?
Jackson Bowerland's saying, not worry, we're Gucci. Hey, Andrew, you think I'll have a chance of re-entering CleanSpark in the near future? Made a lot on it prior. Kept telling myself once we squeezed, I was going to buy back. We'll take a look in just a second. Man.
Hey, Kelly. So I think, the Fed wants to separate tapering from rate hikes. And the way to do that, I think, is, as you announce taper, to re-emphasize that just because we're starting to taper doesn't necessarily put us on a set time clock toward tightening. And so they'll try to create that distinction between the two steps.
Now, there's always the fun of saying to you, what do you think is going to happen? And then what do you want to happen? Do you think they're behind the curve here? Would you like to see them even talk about raising rates sooner here?
I do think they're behind the curve. And I think they're going to end up having to move faster than what they themselves seem to believe right now. But they're going to want to be pretty judicious and move in a step-by-step fashion. It's going to take a while to unwind. The tapering process itself is probably got to be 6 to 8 months, and then rate hikes after that. So it's going to be a while before they start to hike rates. And in the meantime, the economy continues to roll along, and wage and price pressures appear to be building.
That's why I think it's interesting to focus on kind of the negative 1% real rate that we're seeing. If you just kind of go off 10-year tips, what does that economically tell you? If we ignore everything else going on in the economy, stimulus checks and tapering and supply chain and prices and core CPI rate, what does the simple fact that we are at a negative 1% real rate tell you is going on here?
That the Fed is very, very easy, and there's a tremendous amount of liquidity in the system. And I think that's the thing that is being overlooked a little bit right now. Everybody's talking about the supply chain issues, but there's also extraordinarily strong demand, which is being driven not only by the fiscal steps that you mentioned, but also by very easy monetary policy. And so, the economy is very hot right now, and I think it's not only because supply is constrained, but also because demand is very strong.
And maybe a good illustration of that is the fact that nominal GDP grew 8% last quarter. You know, it was only 2% real, but I believe that leaves people with the impression that the economy is barely expanding, when in fact, that's double the pace that we saw for the entire previous expansion. What would happen if the Fed raised rates by a point, let's say, just to be ridiculous?
Just to be ridiculous.
What would happen to the markets and the economy, do you think?
Well, look, I mean, that would be a shocker for the markets. And so there'd be a big adjustment in the financial markets. But I think just purely from an economic standpoint, setting aside those financial market effects, 1% funds rate would still be stimulative. It would just be less stimulative than before. So, just because they're moving in the direction of normalizing monetary policy doesn't mean that policy immediately turns from being very easy to tight.
Well, and again, I know I'm asking you a lot of sort of to speculate on what could or should happen here, but I do want to remind people that you basically think this will be the meeting that he really tries to de-link the taper from tightening.
I think that for the next month or two, at least, that's probably going to be the dominant communications theme that we get from the Fed. Is they're going to be trying to assuage any fears that they're about to, just go willy-nilly to the tight side. I think beyond that, probably as we get to early 2022, if the inflation numbers continue to behave as they have over the last couple of months, then that's kind of going to overtake what the Fed would like to do, which is to be calm and soothing and step by step. But I think they're going to have to get themselves in a little bit of a hurry.
Yeah, maybe soothing would sound a little different if that were the case. Absolutely.
Let's see. Jackson says that there is a potential for upside for PBTS. Yes, there is. And I still owe you an analysis. 1 second. Oh, man. Kyle says bought 100 AMC. Nice sale. Let's see. We got... Joe says digging the lighting, Bandrew. Yeah, baby. So at the end of the day, understand that when the Fed is releasing news like this, it's just one more chip on the in the swear jar, I guess. A little bit more of a pushing the clock back, because they will eventually have to let go of the training wheels. But right now, they seem like they're holding on. AMC has 2 impulse waves into a return, a bounce from 39.11, and now tightening right between the 2 ranges of the 38.83 level of support and the $40 level of resistance. It's a mental barrier too. Let's go, Brandon says, and Granddaddy Funk got burnt on Tilray. That's why we have the Chatterquant and Lux Algo to be able to give us those alerts, so we don't miss and get burned. Let's take a look at where Lux is for. What was it again? PLTR? No, sorry. Jackson says Clean Spark. And then we'll look at Palantir. They have that Spock. Okay. So, Clean Spark. This is Lux Algo. Gives you guys the buy and sell signals. Simplifies everything a little bit. Also slaps onto a free trading view. I don't pay for my trading view. Neither should you. But if you wanted buy and sell signals, that's the ticket right here. With Lux. So where has the last buy signal been? It's actually been earlier today. From 21.45. That's a strong buy signal, bringing itself up into the 3rd, 4th, and now into the last Bollinger right here at $23. No sell signal yet. CleanSpark looks like it has run away from the overbought territory into the majorly overbought, so be careful as it tops, I think, all-time highs from what I can see. Let's take a look at year to date, and then go auto. Not all-time highs, but definitely the same resistance as one that it was knocked down from the 29th of April, so be careful. It is now reaching the same level of resistance that it was knocked down from before. That's a trend. Let's take a look at the short interest. This is Ortex. AMC short interest today, a change of about 0.58%, currently holding at 16.6% for AMC. I'm assuming after the short activity we had from today, this is going to be a increase of the amount of shorts of the free flow. Take a look at this inverse head and shoulders right here. Head. And then a consolidation right here to the upside. Wish I didn't draw that that signal so vertical upward. Jared says, OMG, LOL, good news for us. AMC, choo-choo. Jackson says, got it, hurts watch. A clean spark when I saw it at 13 not too long ago. Enjoyed it last year on that run up to 77. I can see it getting back up to 150 in the future. It's still not a bad entry at 22. Ologist says, can't wait for Common Soothing. Tendies on the moon. PDA sandwiches, the Tilray should be up. Spirits released today. Thinking they should start, maybe the MMs own these programs and use these signals to manipulate the F out of the market. Oh, BCS, months of being raked over the coals. Ain't that the truth, Ruth? Alright, we were taking a look down here at Tesla, holding still at that $1,200 range. No pullback on Tesla quite yet. What else is the winner of the day? SoFi. Also nearing a very similar all-time high after a jump from $20 just a few days ago. NEO. We're watching NEO on the far right side, the lower right side. Currently up 5%. Might be one of the bigger winners of the day. AMD up 1.5%. This is actually getting close to AMD's best performing uptrend in a long time. Yeah, this looks like an all-time high for AMD. $133. And it was in single digits as early as 2018. Obviously nothing like AMC's astronomical trajectory. But AMD, you know, it's one letter away. It's one letter away and looking great for the day. AMC just reached that $40 level of resistance, now currently petering right below its VWAP. Okay. Need to get to $40, in order to continue upward. Let's see. The Fed Tremor doesn't think that we are behind the curve. Speaking of the movies, you guys heard about that movie shenanigan that happened on the Rust set? It seems like movies are coming back bigger than ever, and it's important to be able to talk about drama in movies
Attorneys
as well.
for the armor
Let's take a look at this.
On the set of the film Rust are now suggesting a disgruntled crew member may have intentionally put a real bullet in the box of dummy ammo on set.
Whoa.
Why would someone do that, and who in your mind had the motive and the...
Hold on, they're talking over each other. AMC at $40.20. Take a look at it pushing past and reverse head and shoulders right now, coming right above the EMA here.
Want to prove a point, want to say that they're disgruntled, they're unhappy, and we know that people had already walked off the set the day before.
Somebody who would. The attorneys floated the idea as a possibility that they, quote, looking into. They did not provide any specific evidence at all to support the sabotage theory. The armorer, Hannah Gutierrez Reed, told investigators she had no idea how live rounds wound up on the set, including the bullet in Alec Baldwin's revolver that killed the cinematographer, Alana Hutchins, and wounded the director. Here's CNBC's Valerie Castro.
Photos of cinematographer Helena Hutchins on the set of Rust in the days before her death show her surrounded by crew members.
She genuinely was something special.
Lane Looper, seen in those photos, spoke to Good Morning America Wednesday. He was head of the camera department for the production, but quit the day before the accidental shooting, citing several concerns, including safety on the set. Producers have fired back, writing that Looper had nothing to do with or knowledge of safety protocols, adding, "It's truly awful to see some using this tragedy for personal gain."
Yeah, so there's no personal gain in this for me. I have a pretty unique perspective in that it's important that I be a part of safety as the head of the camera department for protecting the camera operators, knowing what the shot is.
Actor Alec Baldwin has said little publicly, but reposted this
Good
Facebook
idea.
post by the production's costume designer, adding, "Read this." In it, she says, "We had several safety meetings, sometimes multiple per day. Our AD never seemed flippant about safety." Attorneys speaking on behalf of the armorer, 24-year-old Hannah Gutierrez Reed, told NBC Savannah Guthrie there was an opportunity for sabotage, a theory they say should be seriously considered.
We have people who had left the set, who had walked out because they were disgruntled. We have a time frame between 11 and 1, approximately that day, in which the firearms at times were unattended. So there was opportunity to tamper with this scene.
In response to allegations that this was a sabotage, Looper tells NBC News that that is an irresponsible and offensive suggestion, and Shep, the production company, has not responded.
Interesting. Okay. So, in that sense, looking at whether or not a movie drama will also be able to manipulate the movie box offices. That's the thing, right? I mean, it's a story that's definitely going around. We want to be able to talk about Jason Tantillo saying, "Mo Money, what's up? Long time, no message. How's it going? Any stocks you would recommend options on, not including AMC or GME?" Let's take a look at ChatterQuant. All right, we are looking at these alerts. So options flow. I'll just give you guys a look at what ChatterQuant is looking at in terms of getting the data. We have tsunami, ripple wave, and tidal wave. So it's just 3 different ways to be able to tell exactly what are the major players of the day. And you guys still got 30% with the code, the first link in the description actually, from ChatterQuant. So Tesla, PayPal. Take a look at these suspicious call options here. We got Etsy, we got Playa, we got a GME, AAL, DXC. We have NVDA, MTCH, and CFX. One of the bigger golden, I think these are tsunami. Yeah, these are tsunami volume options. Are Tesla in terms of puts, BBWI in terms of calls, ABNB in terms of puts, and Open in terms of puts. Oh, what's going on, Andre Bowman? Jackson Burles says the Book of Boba Fett should be able to watch at AMC before its digital release, but Disney won't listen to me. Come on, Disney. Come on. Let's see. Joanne saying, "No doubt, Ivy." The bullet walked onto the set and jumped into the gun unnoticed. Believe it was a sticky bit of shrapnel. Yikes! You don't want that in your prop gun. Yikes! All right. Final thing about Jerome Powell. So we know that he's not going to be cranking up the inflation rate yet. But transitory means different things to different people, so let's make sure that we understand what he means by it.
That's what Rachel Siegel of the Washington Post.
Hi, Chair Powell. Thank you so much for taking our questions. You mentioned at the beginning that the Fed understands the difficulties that high inflation poses for individuals and families, especially those with limited means. What is your message to those families or consumers that are struggling with higher prices right now? And do you feel that your expectations around transitory inflation that message is reaching them? Thank you.
Yeah, so first of all, it is our job to, and we accept responsibility and accountability for inflation in the medium term. We're accountable to Congress and to the American people for maximum employment and price stability. The level of inflation we have right now is not at all consistent with price stability. By the way, we're also not at maximum employment, as I mentioned. So I would want to assure people that we will use our tools as appropriate to get inflation under control. We don't think it's a good time to raise interest rates, though, because we want to see the labor market heal further. And we have very good reason to think that will happen as the Delta variant declines, so which it's doing now. As I mentioned, so transitory is a word that people have had different understandings of. For some, it carries a sense of short-lived, and that's there's a real time component measured in months, or let's say. Really, for us, what transitory has meant is that if something is transitory, it will not leave behind it permanently or very persistently higher inflation. So that's why we took a step back from transitory. We said expected to be transitory, first of all, to show uncertainty around that. We've always said that, by the way, in other contexts. We just hadn't done it in the statement. But also to acknowledge, really, that it means different things to different people. And then we added some language to really explain more what we're talking about in paragraph 2 and paragraph 3. We said that supply and demand imbalances related to the pandemic and the reopening of the economy have contributed to sizable price increases. Then we said progress on vaccinations and an easing of supply constraints are expected to support continued gains in economic activity and employment, as well as a reduction in inflation. So we're trying to explain what we mean, and also acknowledging more uncertainty about transitory. So it's become a word that's attracted a lot of attention that maybe is distracting from our message, which we want to be as clear as possible. Ultimately, the only other thing I would say is, look, we understand completely that it's particularly people who are living paycheck to paycheck or seeing higher grocery costs, higher gasoline costs. When the winter comes, higher heating costs for their homes. We understand completely what they're going through, and we will use our tools over time to make sure that doesn't become a permanent feature of life. Really, that's one of our principal jobs, along with achieving maximum employment, and that's our commitment.
Viper says, now they're deflecting the blame. Always check the weapons before heading to the cast. BTS sandwich, I miss these days with Professor Meatball and Andrew.
Hey, thank you. We're going to go to Jeff Cox for the last question.
Last question here.
Yeah, thank you.
All right, Joe. Good to see you.
I just want to dig a little bit deeper on employment. We've seen what's been called the Great Resignation, with folks leaving their jobs in record numbers. Is there any feeling there that maybe you've been accused of fighting the last war, that perhaps the labor dynamics have changed in the post-COVID environment, and that full employment may not look like what it looked like before?
Yeah, so what's happening is people are leaving their jobs. They're quitting their jobs in all-time high numbers, but in many cases going back into employment and getting higher wages. So a lot of the higher wages you're seeing are for job switchers rather than incumbents. So that's a sign of a really strong labor market, as opposed to people just running off and quitting. There have also been there are a significant number of retirements, and we'll just have to see what that means. So toward the end of the last cycle, which was the longest in our recorded economic history, we did see
rainy
labor
Santa
force
Cruz
participation moving up well above what economists estimate was the trend. And part of that was people staying in the labor force older and older.
Someone's asking about T+1, so I'll just answer that real quick. Also, Brian Tarantino's asking about Black Rifle Coffee going public. Let's take a listen in a second. But T+1, and why has nothing changed in terms of as far as price action, in terms of which stock? Because both AMC and Jamie have run significantly these past few days. But in terms of T+1 versus T+2, it's just how many days it takes for your trade to settle. For example, I hold your money and the stock in like a middle space, right? Like an escrow. But it's really just so that everyone can clear their accounts, make sure that your money is in your account, and make sure the stock actually exists within 2 days. Right, 2 trading days. That's just how the market has been running, and people have been asking, why shouldn't we just go to T+1? The burden on the actual electronic restrictions of the market have already been resolved. We've already gone past of that technologically. In fact, we can go to real time, okay, or close to it. We can go to T+0, right? Settle everything within the day that you purchase anything. But all of this is to say that if it does become T+1 or T+2, then the market's makers, the people who have more information, the people who are selling information, have less value in the markets. And of course, they don't want that to happen.
Just not retiring at the rates they were expected to retire. So maybe this was just catch up on that. I am a believer that over time, you won't know how far, you won't know what can happen with labor force participation in advance. And you're just going to have to give it some time, because we saw that over and over again. There are things that we can say, this is where the limit is. Labor force participation is a much more flexible subject for me, and so I do think we need to be humble about what the limits are of labor force participation. But we expect labor force participation to pick up. We don't know the pace at which it will do so. So in terms of full employment, as I discussed earlier, I think at the very beginning of the recovery, the natural thing to do was to look back at labor market conditions in February of 2010, at the end of the longest expansion in our history. It was so much to like about that labor market, really historically good labor market, never perfect, but a good labor market. We're in a different world now. It's just very different. The pandemic recession was the deepest, and the recovery has been the fastest. And wages didn't really go down, and real incomes were more than fully replaced by fiscal policy. All of this is completely unusual. An economy where inflation was driven by services is now inflation where all the inflation is in goods, which have had negative inflation for a quarter century. So you ask about full employment. I think we have to. I'm very open to the thought that it's going to be an empirical question of where it is located, and we're just going to learn more and more. I mean, one thing we'll learn, I hope we'll learn in the near term, is once the Delta variant really does continue to decline, what's going to happen to employment? Are we going to start to see over the winter, significant increases in jobs again? If you look back, the 3, 6, and 9 month average job creation is between 550,000 and 600,000. So if you think of that as a stronger, you don't have to think back to the million job months of June and July. You can just think, okay, 550 to 600. If we should get back on that path, then we would be making good progress. And we'd like to see that, of course. So we'll know so much more. And believe me, we understand it's a different world in so many ways. And we're very open to that.
The different world in many ways, and we are open to that. Okay. Let's take a look at, it's like I take away the curtain and take a look at how AMD is still flying right now. 2.8, 2.9, getting up to 3%. It's not AMC, but AMC is still holding that tight pattern. We were looking at an inverse head and shoulders. Now we're taking a look at the EMA hitting AMC twice in the head. This is now getting close to a close call. $40 is the support that we just dipped underneath. We don't have anything else to support the price action other than just the strength of the apes. The strength of the apes currently bringing the price action and holding it consistent underneath that EMA right now. We talked about his remarks following the Fed decision. Now we talked about his belief of the strength of the labor market, especially into the holiday season.
Check out shares of Zillow plunging to a 16.
Whoop. And then I think hopes of more clarity about tapering. Is this tapering or is it trajectory? Trajectory.
Well, I wonder if you could update us. You talked about getting back to full employment. And so could you update how you define that? I mean, a few months ago, yourself and other Fed officials talked about getting back to the pre-COVID labor market. There was even hints you might try to do something better than that. Now we hear talk of, as you mentioned, people retiring, and there's talk of not being able to get back all the jobs back because of that and other trends. You did mention the prime age folks. So can you give us some examples of things you're looking at specifically to measure full employment? Will you be looking at prime age employment population ratio, for example? And if so, do you need to see that get back to pre-COVID levels to achieve maximum employment, or is there something short of that would work? Thank you.
Thanks. So maximum employment is it's a broad-based and inclusive goal that's not directly measurable and changes over time due to various factors. You can't specify a specific goal. So it's taking into account quite a broad range of things. And of course, employment levels of employment, participation are part of that. But in addition, there are other measures of what's going on in the labor market. Like wages is a key measure of how tight the labor market is. The level of quits, the amount of job openings, the flows in and out of various states. So we look at so many different things, and you make an overall judgment. Now, the temptation at the beginning of the recovery was to look at the data in February of 2020 and say, well, that's the goal, because we didn't know that's what we knew. That we knew that was achievable in a context of low inflation. I think we're we're learning now. We have to be humble about what we know about this economy, which is still very COVID affected, by the way. A lot of what we're seeing in the last 90 days is because of Delta. We were on a path to a very different place. Delta put us on a different path, and we see these things. But so I think we're going to have to, ideally we would see further development of the labor market in a context where there isn't another COVID spike. And then we would be able to see, I think, a lot. We would see how does participation react in that world, in that sort of post-COVID world. Right now, people are staying out of the labor market because of caretaking and because of fear of COVID to a significant extent. We thought that that schools reopening and the elapsing unemployment benefits would produce some sort of additional labor supply. That doesn't seem to have been the case, interestingly. So I think there's room for a whole lot of humility here as we try to think about what maximum employment would be. We're going to have to see some time post-COVID so that we know, or post-Delta anyway, to see what is possible. And I think the learning for those of us who lived through the last cycle is that over time, you can get to places that didn't look possible. Now, what we also have now, though, is we have high inflation. So we have a completely different situation now where we have high inflation, and we have to balance that with what's going on in the employment market. So it's a complicated situation, and I would say we hope to achieve significantly greater clarity about where this economy is going and what the characteristics of the post-pandemic economy are over the first half of next year.
Again, looking at borderline stocks here. Borderline what? Borderline unstoppable. Okay.
My mission is simple: to make you money.
All right, Kramer. So it's the best part about understanding whether or not these stocks are actually borderline unstoppable. If you won't play a sound effect for us, that would be ideal.
Promised land. The kind of market where you can invest in 2021's best themes and then ride them through to year end. After a day where the Dow gained 94 points, S&P advanced 0.18%, NASDAQ climbed 0.63%, you need to understand that the stock market's filled with misperceptions. I mean, you don't sell in May and go away. You buy the stocks from the clowns who really believe in that nonsense. You don't feast on the summer rally because summers don't produce rallies. September seems benign, but it's actually a wolf in sheep's clothing.
Wolf in sheep's clothing.
Crashes in October, but other than 87, 29, and 08, it tends to be fine. But November is hallowed territory. November is the promised land.
November's the promised land.
Wall Street collectively decides what's going to be loved between now and the end of the year. And those stocks don't look back, and they're bought every time the market goes lower.
What's up, Robot Dog?
So tonight, I'm going to give you the skinny. I'm going to let you know stuff that no one else knows. I'm going to give you the themes with the idea that we'll flesh out the best ways to play them over the course of the week. Now, I like to say that this is the time of year where winners become anointed. 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 What does that mean? Well, it means the big institutional money managers, not the retail investors I love so much, but the big guys with all those billions of dollars, they make up their minds about what worked in 2021 and what didn't, and what will work therefore to the end of the season. That means the end of the year. And once they make up their minds, they won't allow anything to shake them out. Not the Fed, not this week's non-farm payroll report. If the past is any guide, then for the next 2 months, these groups that I'm about to give you, that's right, that I'm going to give you tonight, these groups will be borderline unstoppable. And with that in mind, what stands to make Kramer's anointed list that, believe me, no one else has, but you are going to get in the next few minutes? All right, at the top, the number one theme is the automobile of the future. And in some cases, like Tesla, the president. This morning, On Semiconductor reported a truly astonishing quarter that catapulted the stock into the stratosphere. Why? CEO Hussein El-Khoury, who's been on the show a number of times, called out vehicle electrification and advanced driver assistance systems before also throwing in industrial automation and transition to alternative energy. Those are all powerful mega trends. Oh, yeah. And they got nothing to do with the Fed. They won't be buffeted by higher interest rates that can hurt housing, something we've already seen with Zillow, which made the extremely ill-advised decision to start flipping houses at the top, and now it's possible they're underwater with 2/3 of their inventory. No wonder Zillow announced to be selling 7,000 homes for $2.8 billion after putting their flipping enterprise on hiatus. You don't really leave it to that right now. It's not working. Not anointed, but electric vehicles. Oh my, EV, advanced driver, ADAS, whoa. These themes aren't going anywhere but higher. Other industries have to worry about Washington, but this is one of the groups that could get subsidies if President Biden can pass his big spending bill, because electric cars are better for the environment. We're going to talk about this with Secretary Raimondo from the Commerce Department later on the show. Obviously, Tesla's the most straightforward way to play it. I mean, like you need me. Can we rename the show the Tesla Show? I mean, geez, I think it double. You may want to think about Lucid, which is launching its own electric car. That could be a substitute, but I prefer to stick with the real thing. Meanwhile, On Semi has solidified its place as the must-buy chip maker in the auto industry. I also like NXP Semi. It reported a mixed quarter to the close, but I think it got unfairly dinged because the guidance for the current quarter looks very solid. That's a buy on the way down. Now,
He really does talk as if he knows what he's about to say, but it's only because he can read it directly in front of him. All right, Progenity. Frog is up 12% today after a missed bullish pennant here. Uptrend and descending levels of resistance, ascending levels of support, then no breakout. So from $4, this was a curio for sure. But today seems like it's getting its comeuppance from a couple of days of consolidation. Now a breakout from $3. Looks like that was a level of support that really worked. Currently now, as we spoke, up at 348, now getting smacked down below the $3 and low 40s. Oh, maybe it can hold on to that 10% rip that it currently had. Let's go back to AMC. Nearly dipping above that EMA here. Rejected 3 times. Rejected twice now is the third opportunity for it to try again. GameStop nearly green on the day. Back to the 5-minute chart. Yeah, there we go. Tiara says, new to the channel, been in AMC since December. After a week peeping ya, I enjoy ya and keep coming back for the dog. It's a good time. I mean, I love the dog. That's a real good dog right there. Tiara, welcome to the Moon Platoon. Those of y'all like Tiara, working on getting us up to 120,000 subscribers. Y'all are the real MVPs. Tiara, you get yourself pinned for a while. A hot sec.
The On Semi conference call, Hussein El-Khoury emphasized that the chief catalyst for buying new vehicles is, well, if they're electrified. Otherwise, they ain't going to buy new vehicles. Isn't that amazing? They just keep their cars unless they're electrified. You know who's that great news for? It's great news for Ford Motor, okay? Boy, have I been on this. I was reading my Twitter follow the other day. People are really happy that I keep mentioning it. Not. Anyway, Ford Motor, this is run by Jim Farley, okay? And he's on a mission to electrify as much of his fleet as possible, including the iconic F-150 pickup truck. He did not electrify the Detroit Lions yesterday, just so you know. Now, this should be an electric version by this time next year, or if not earlier, if you can get the chips and the parts and all that other stuff. Hence the 5% advance in that stock. One of the largest in my charitable trust, which we talk about in our CMEC Investment Club bulletin so often, because I believe in Ford so much. But Jim Farley's a different kind of CEO. You'd believe in him too if you just follow what he says. All right, anyway, I'm going to give you a bonus play, Rivian. That's the Amazon-backed electric vehicle maker that's about to come public. Hey, by the way, Ford owns a big chunk of that one. I'm hearing that Rivian could get a $60 billion valuation, but, that's going to prove to be too low. Why? Because Tesla's got a $1.2 billion valuation. Next, second megatrend.
Next.
Somewhat connected to the first. I'm talking about the reason electric vehicles are so popular now. The environment. Not just trees, people, but I am focused on trees because the left and right seem to agree on that. Something the business community actually cares about stopping climate change. And maybe because it's getting bad enough that it could conceivably jeopardize their customer base in the not too distant future. Maybe it's because of these new MSCI rankings. Maybe it's because the SEC is going to start looking at this stuff. Whatever the reason, tons of companies are trying to shrink their carbon footprint. So we need to embrace the alternative energy plays. Now, I've been a huge believer in hydrogen fuel cells. I know it's early, even though we don't have a way to produce clean hydrogen on the cheap. Plug Power makes these fuel cells, and its stock broke out today, jumping nearly 9%. How many times have I had Andy Marsh on? People say, why do you keep having him on? I'll tell you why. Because the stock goes higher. Now, it's still a revenue story, not an earnings story. I'm betting the clean energy believers will keep buying this one through the end of the year. Now, meanwhile, I got another one. I mean, I don't talk about this one nearly enough, and it's called Enphase Energy. No one talks about it enough. I could just do nothing to talk about this stock. This is a residential solar juggernaut. It saw its stock rally 54% last month. Yeah, last month. Again, I'm a simple man looking for simple ideas. So I don't want to go beyond the zone of Enphase to pick something further down the food chain. For those of you who want to call and ask about Jinko or Yingling or First Solar, I say forget about it. When I want a Yingling, I'll make it one of these babies. All right, there will be bids underneath Enphase every single time it goes lower, and that's when you can pick some up. Call it the second most anointed after Tesla. In number 3. Metaverse. I know a lot of younger people are extremely dubious about this idea, but I'm younger than they are. And it just sounds like the internet with a virtual reality headset. Do we have a headset? Someone have a headset on? Maybe we can show what a virtual reality headset is. Oh, no, that's a director's headset. All right. But Wall Street, you're a loser. Got to have one of those that looks like, Anyway, you're not a loser. You're a big winner. I didn't mean that.
You're not a loser. You're a big winner.
Saying that. That's something that's a technical term, means that you're a bad boy. Anyway, Wall Street can't get enough of this idea. All right. No.
Okay. Honkiness might not like Kramer, but as a reminder, this man is on TV and he just said, "You're not a loser. You're a big winner." I think that's pretty good entertainment. If not, just throwing out the important stocks in the movement. Remember, we are watching the options flow, but at the same time, you can only get so far from collecting data. You have to understand what the mainstream is talking about, thanks to the self-perpetuating cycle of putting Jim Cramer's on the air. But remember, we have the options flow data. We are looking at QCOM with calls. These are all suspicious options activities. OSTK with puts, NVDA with calls, SYF with calls, and QCOM again with calls. Double QCOM today.
Not enough. Mega.
Kelly Jenkins saying, don't forget to smash that like. We don't say it very often on the show, but if you guys are currently watching, smashing that like, equaling the people in this chat, that helps a lot.
Mega. Look at this. You could just literally just take this and go there. Like it's spelling tests, The load of Facebook has transformed itself into the sated Meta platforms. And now the stock's worried. Can you imagine? It was going like this, and then it went like this. Everyone told me if they renamed it, it wouldn't mean anything. Yeah? Well, I'll take that more than I'll take that, okay? I'm a simple man looking for simple themes. Now, a name change shouldn't matter, but Mark Zuckerberg has changed the narrative. Mark. See, I don't call him Silk or any of that stuff. See, I call him Mark. NVIDIA, which makes the graphic cards that would power the metaverse, well, let me tell you something. It saw its stock rally 23% last month. Unity, the video game software company with a metaverse kicker, has been on fire. I'd like to come up with a better name for this concept. But what matters is that Wall Street has anointed it. So it works for the next 2 months at the very least. I'm giving you the best of best of best because I don't want you to have second best of best of best. Theme 4. The cloud, that amorphous place where we store all of our data. You only know the cloud as if you lost your Apple phone, okay? But it's all over the place. Lots of players are here. The ubiquitous NVIDIA, that's 2 for 2. The fabulous AMD for semiconductors. Microsoft's Azure, AMD was downgraded today. And the stock went up. What does that tell you? Microsoft for the cloud infrastructure, Salesforce because it goes higher all the time, and Adobe for creativity, and let's throw in Snowflake for analytics. These are the brothers of the cloud, and I'd leave the raggedy rest to others. Finally, let's do really boring and basic for the people who haven't heard any of the things I've just said. We're going to give you some energy.
Space Agent says, hey, Mo and Meatball, great to be here. Kramer's a simple man looking for simple things. He's more than simple. He's definitely old enough to call him Mark. Let's take a look at AMD, still ripping non-stop up onto its all-time high, continuing on 135, up 3.8% today. Looks like, at the very least, a broken clock's right twice a day. He just threw out AMD a couple days ago, and now it is on a rip.
Energy stocks, even if oil and gas prices come down, they're going to buy these stocks. I doubt crude will sink to the 60s before the end of the year. You want yield? Go with Chevron. You want variable dividends and good growth? I suggest Pioneer, Nat, and Devon. They report this week. They're all on a roll, and it won't be stopped by a president who wants to stop oil companies from drilling here on federal land, hey, the less they drill, the higher the price goes. That said, I think it's a little ridiculous that the White House practically is begging OPEC to pump more at the same time that they're clamping down on our companies from drilling in federal lands. Bottom line, I'll give you more anointed themes as November goes on, because this is one of my absolute, in 16 years, the beginning of November is when I always do this, and everybody really loves it. So I wanted to give you my preliminary list early so you have some time to do homework and take action on your own electric cars, alternative energy, the metaverse, the cloud, and old-fashioned oil and gas plays. You want to see an old-fashioned headset? Look at this. Am I allowed to touch that? That's an old-fashioned headset. I'm talking about something entirely different. I'm talking about the metaverse, Mark.
He's talking about the metaverse, Mark. All right. So this is Jim talking today, a little earlier, almost during market close. He's talking about advice for hedge funds after Avis and Bed Bath & Beyond surge. Let's take a look at what BBBY and Avis did yesterday, because at the end of the day, as a reminder, he's speaking to all hedge funds here, shorting both of the stocks that you guys care about here.
Can't teach you. So call me 1-800-743-CBC or tweet me at Jim Cramer. On a day when we shrugged off the Fed's taper announcement, Dow actually gaining 105 points, S&P advancing 0.65%, and the Nasdaq jumping 1.04%. Wow.
Oh.
You need to understand that this is a market where the tail can indeed wag the dog. Where what's happening to a stock can be more important than what's happening at the underlying company itself. Now, we've always had some stocks that traded more on individual excitement than institutional fielding. I created the acronym FANG in order to capture that. FANG because Facebook, Amazon, Apple, Netflix, and Google were beloved by home gamers first, not by institutions. The home gamers who kept buying them and making fortunes, even as the big money people on Wall Street remained skeptical. At one point, all these stocks were derided as being too giddy. Giddy being a code word that means something rallying because of dumb money. Wall Street speak for you. Yeah, regular investors, you. I rebel at these condescending judgments. Big reason, by the way, why we created the investment club here. And I often share your enthusiasm for stocks most pros denigrate. But these wise men are very often betting against your instincts. In particular, you had a whole cottage industry of experts who crawled about how Amazon and Netflix would never, ever turn a profit, no matter how much you like their services and products, no matter how much you pay. Many of these so-called professional money managers were too skeptical, too pessimistic in their nature. They thought these companies were run by dreamers with their heads in the clouds. When in reality, the CEOs of Amazon and Netflix were ruthless businessmen who also happen to be visionaries. Today, both companies are incredibly profitable, but the skeptics have never been held to account. That's what we do here. Well, then Tesla came along. That's one of the greatest stock stories ever told. This is a company that's now worth $1.2 trillion. Even though it'll be lucky to produce 1 million cars this year when Ford, GM, and Toyota collectively make tens of millions of cars, yet when you lump them together, they're not even worth a fraction of Tesla. Maybe it's not so much a car company. Every step of the way you heard that Tesla's valuation was totally divorced from reality, and every step of the way it kept going higher. You can't justify that market capitalization on the basis of the numbers. You can only justify it on the basis of vision. If electric vehicles are indeed the future of the auto industry and Tesla's the future of electric vehicles, then $1.2 trillion might not be a stretch. But professional money managers generally disdain that kind of analysis. I find it as free-thinking and rigorous. Which brings me to the events of the last 24 hours, where canny individual investors have reclaimed the valuations of all sorts of companies with the aid of some shark-like hedge funds who smell the blood of short sellers in the water. Yesterday, we saw a monster move in Avis that was really kind of, this is watershed stuff. You can't just say, oh, that was yesterday. These things have to really be dealt with head on. I'm not leaving it after one day. See, this was seminal in the way it went up. And today, at least at the opening, we got an amazing run in Bed Bath & Beyond, okay? Now, a huge part of these gains is similar to what we saw with GameStop and AMC. If you can take a look at the Bed Bath, you can see what I'm telling you about. These saw these at AMC, and we saw that in GameStop in January. If you notice, this is the kind of parabolic move, okay? Where I'm saying these are watersheds. You don't get these in normal markets. That's why we're addressing them. See, there were tons of short sellers betting against this and betting against Avis. And they went against the traders in favor of you. And that forced the short sellers to buy back stock in order to close out their ill-advised positions. Large hedge funds realized that you were going to take this stock up. So then they decided to crush the hedge funds. And it worked. Two different kinds of hedge funds, the shorting kind and the long kind. Now, in the case of Avis, the rental car company reported jaw-dropping quarter where they earned nearly twice what Wall Street was looking for. In the case of Bed Bath, they announced a joint venture between their Bye Bye Baby unit and Kroger, something I talked about with CEO Mark Tritton on Squawk on the Street this morning. Bed Bath also accelerated its buyback dramatically. I bring up these two because they are fantastic illustrations of how the mechanics of money management can impact individual stocks and about the change in this environment. See, hedge fund managers often have a huge disadvantage during a bull market like this one. Many of them have no choice but to run what's known as a balanced book, meaning their long positions and their short positions, what they own and what they sell against, should be even. Basically, the clients are using them to hedge what otherwise would be straight ownership of good companies. In other words, there are tons of hedge funds that have to short stocks. It's in their charter, so to speak. Even in a fabulous bull market, they need to find something to bet against. So they're always looking for targets and shorting the uneven Bed Bath & Beyond against, say, a Macy's or a Costco, which had fantastic numbers tonight. They had these guys at Bed Bath, they did have horrendous management before Mark Tritton came in. And by the way, last quarter was a disappointment for Tritton because they had the wrong kind of promotions. And maybe that's why more than 28% of the shares that trade were sold short as of this morning. But the short sellers made one mistake. They forgot what happened earlier this year when a brand new cohort of investors started shooting against the short sellers anytime they got too crowded, anytime there were too many of them. And that's why Bed Bath & Beyond finished today up more than 15%, but at one point was up more than 50%. Memo to the shorts. If you think you are shooting fish in a barrel when you go after these companies, well, you may not be the guy with the gun. Buy Bed Bath & Beyond on this pulpit.
I really should have put all my money in Costco. Costco's the very first stock that I ever bought, and I bought it all the way back right around here, right around $100. Oh man! Oh, I agree, Meatball.
It should be bought. The Kroger opportunity is too big to ignore, and I bet the shorts aren't finished covering. Okay, how about Avis? Now this was even dumber. Lots of money managers wanted a piece of Hertz, its competitor, which was cheaper than Avis and had a better story. But the ones who run what's known again as a balanced book needed something to protect them from the downside. So when they went long Hertz, they shorted Avis. They didn't understand that they get wrecked if we got any good news. So when Avis reported a blowout quarter thanks to the auto shortage, the stock exploded and the shorts got to experience what it feels like to lose more than 100% of your money. Now what matters here is what didn't matter, and that's the traditional valuation metrics that so many money managers come on air or in the papers or tell their investors is what really matters. Should Avis have added $10 billion in enterprise value due to a single quarter? No, it shouldn't have. It is superficial. Should Bed Bath run like this when it recently reported some not-so-hot numbers? I can spin out a story about how Bye Bye Baby division could be worth the current price of the entire company, something I tried this very morning, but Triton wouldn't take the bet. Otherwise, no, probably wasn't. But at the end of the day, these stocks are like GameStop or AMC in that at their highs of the day, they did divorce themselves from the fundamentals. It happened. Now, maybe the better comparisons are Netflix and Amazon, which made you fortunes in the face of heavy shorting, even though their valuations were totally unjustifiable until many, many years later. Netflix and Amazon were about superior producers, whereas GameStop and AMC are something about the mechanics of the market. I don't think anyone honestly believed these stocks deserved to trade as high as they did earlier last year. But the buyers took their cue from Clint Eastwood in Unforgiven. They realized that deserves got nothing to do with it. There were simply too many short sellers who had to capitulate, and their surrender sent the stocks into the stratosphere. That's what we saw in Avis yesterday and in Bed Bath this morning. Again, this is the revolution, okay? These are people who typically have not owned stocks. They come in, they buy them up, and cause the short sellers to capitulate, which is probably right here. And then the short sellers probably come back at the end of the day. But they're about to get hit again. Now, there will always be shorts that go awry. Look at this one. There were a ton of short sellers who got steamrolled at Estee Lauder just yesterday. Okay, this is what happened. First, the stock got crushed, okay? People thought the numbers could be bad. And then they listened to the conference call. They realized they were on the wrong side of the tree. It was a good quarter. See, the The hedge funds bet against it because they figured the Chinese business would be hammered, not unlike Nike. That turned out to be a myth. I see the fingerprints of hedge funds all over this mistaken thesis. Also, a sizable bet against a company that we all know now is worth every penny, Moderna. Every step of the way. Moderna. That one hurt to watch because the bull thesis was so irresistible. They got a vaccine, we got a pandemic. Well, why would you bet against that? Might as well punch yourself in the face. But the bottom line, we now live in a world where individual investors like you have realized that they can destroy the short sellers whenever the short sellers get too overconfident. They know they can pressure the shorts and force them to capitulate, as I just showed you, whenever they crowd into a stock. And a bunch of short sellers surrendering en masse will indeed cause any stock to do what this did. And that's what created situations like Avis or Bed Bath, and it created GameStop, and it created AMC, and I bet we'll see many more of those until hedge funds learn their lesson. Stay away from crowded shorts.
It's a pretty good message, honestly. So at the end of the day, understand that if a little bit skeptical, you should take Jim at a level of wisdom maybe we'll never understand. I'm using that very lightly. GME double bottoming out right here. Take a look at 211 and 214, giving GME the support it needs right here at 214 to try a break above its VWAP. On the other hand, AMC also had a positive rip right here, nearing completely green for the day. After a support at 39.11, now we're looking at 3 touch points on this uptrend from 39 to 39.70 to 39.97. I would say right around $40. And now we are facing an uptrend on the resistance side right here at $40.32 and $40.40, which is where we are right now. Tiara says, 20-some years ago, I learned a lot from him. However, I also cringe. So, let's see. Analyst for Zillow. Ford announces buyback of up to $5 billion in debt. Okay, this actually looks like pretty
breaking news from Ford. I want to get straight over to Phil LeBeau, who joins us with the details there. Phil.
Andrew, take a look at shares of Ford, which have had a heck of a run over the last week and a half. Well, this morning they're indicating a little bit higher. The company announcing that it plans to buy back up to $5 billion in debt. This will be done through a cash tender offer. They're going to be paying off some of the more expensive bonds that, by the way, they took out at the beginning of the pandemic. Remember back in March and April of last year? They needed to borrow a lot of money to make sure that they had some cushion. Well, they're going to be doing this. This is part of an ESG finance plan that the company is announcing. And the plan includes the potential for issuing potentially a $1 billion green bond. The company has not made a final decision on whether or not that will happen. It also plans on financing EV investments through this ESG finance plan, as well as funding clean manufacturing. All of this coming as the company sitting on $25.6 billion in debt, but before this announcement, more than $30 billion in cash. So they're putting some of that cash to use. What does Ford's finances, what's the state of them? Pretty good shape right now, and we're going to be talking with CFO John Lawler, first on CNBC, coming up this morning on Tech Check. We're going to talk not only about this cash tender offer, but more importantly, this ESG finance plan and how the company plans to use this financing as it increasingly is doing EV production and targeting clean manufacturing, going potentially carbon neutral by 2050. Guys,
okay, so that's why ESG is a big thing right now.
Let's take a listen. About ESG investing, but the strategy could come with a cost. Christina Partsinevelos joins us now with the story of what you might call greenflation, among other things to think about. Christina, I hope we are.
Well, I'm going to get to those numbers to see if we are or not, but Americans get roughly about 80% of their energy from fossil fuels, such as coal, petroleum, and natural gas. And with so many itching to travel right now, demand for oil is expected to keep rising in the years ahead. But analysts at JP Morgan say right now as much as $600 billion must be invested in oil by 2030 to keep up with demand. But you've got banks, firms like BlackRock, funds like the Harvard Endowment Fund, who promise not to do as much traditional energy investing as they once did, preferring to focus on renewable energy sources that aren't as damaging to the environment. But a focus on ESG, environmental, social, and governance, is driving a credit crunch for oil and gas companies. And some argue that transition isn't cheap.
The problem with ESG is it's promising cake with no calories. All the good stuff with no sacrifice. And let's face it, being good will cost you.
With clean energy initiatives and supply chain issues, prices have soared for green energy raw materials like aluminum and uranium, helping the stock prices of aluminum producers like Alcoa and Uranium Energy Corporation. You can see on your screen, both up well over 100% this year so far. But coal-related job losses loom in energy-producing states like North Dakota and Wyoming, for example. And you can see this bar chart on your screen, just how many coal mines actually remain in the United States over the past decade. But
we actually have Boom Boom Ken Duels in the chat right now. I cannot believe it. Just one Boom Boom, please.
many argue the short-term losses will be offset by increases in carbon-low sectors like solar and the electric grid. Listen in.
I think it's important to note that those increased investments in infrastructure will be outweighed by decreases in costs of energy. So the overall system-wide cost of electricity should be balanced out.
Companies that fall behind the green technology curve or stick to dirty sectors could see their access to capital markets turned off. But ESG advocates say the short-term costs, as we just heard, are just a feature of going green.
Alrighty. Let's take a look at AMC's current trajectory back down to the simple moving average, now crossing over the EMA. That simple moving average giving us a potential bounce from the $40.30 range. Let me see.
Let's go to Harold Ham right now.
Anthony B saying, what do you think about Black Rifle and the fact that they out-earned Starbucks in the last 2 quarters? How small Catholic company is compared to? Let's see. I'll do a little bit of digging on Black Rifle. What are you doing, bud? Betcha Jerome Powell ignores mention of interest. Good boy. Let's take a look at the potential uptrend here on GME. In fact, I thought this was nearing a potential pennant here. So you have a descending level of resistance right here, a ascending level of support. This would mean that the last chance for this breakout is closing in on the sub 10 minutes. Something very similar is happening over here on AMC. GME has now crossed over to the green for the day. AMC is also having an uptrend from the 39.11s and up. About to be 3 points of contact. 1, 2, 3. Harder to see where the resistances are. SBEA. Thank you, BTS Sandwich. I am going to take a look at Lux. He loves the head pats. What can we say? SBEA.
Oops, get ready. $10. Let's go to the 3 months. Okay. Buy. Unsure. All purple price action here. Alright, just from the pure technicals, it's hard to be able to tell exactly where the stock's moving. Crossed way over its fourth Bollinger and stayed there. Stayed there all in the course of a few days, I see. Hitting $15. It's 50% rip. It's not like GME didn't hit a 25% rip yesterday. So this is what I'm currently looking at. SBEA. Mostly purple price action here, so Lux doesn't have enough data on it. However, over rambunctiousness trying to bring it over to $15 likely left a lot of people holding the bag. Mountain Tactical wants to know about FAMI. Okay, let's take a look. FAMI. FAMI holding some consolidation over the last few days. Let's go to a couple months. All right, there we go. From October, descending resistances all the way down to, I believe, their October earnings. And then some support caught twice. Once in November, beginning of November, next in the middle of October, right around 32 cents. Strong sell signal from Lux Algo right now, and that's where it's currently. With the beginning of the day as a hint on the oscillator for a potential reversal. So that is, thanks to Lux, you guys get 20% off with the code AndroMoMoney if you guys wanted your own buy-sell signals to crypto stuff and to stock stuff. Anything that has a ticker, you can input and get buy and sell signals right here. He's called Professor Meatball, that's right. What is the good boy's name? See, he heard his name. You heard your name? Damn, he had a gap fill recently. Okay, where was I looking? Nope. Hello. All right. Countdown to the Fed. Markets prepare for a taper. That didn't happen. More accommodative financial. Oh yeah, this is the one Powell announcement that we missed.
Thank you. Let's go to Mike Derby.
Yeah, thank you for taking my question. I wonder if the Fed has given any thoughts yet to the end game for the balance sheet in terms of, once you get the taper process complete, will you hold the balance sheet steady or will you allow it to start passively winding down? And then in a related question, do you have any greater insight into what Fed bond buying actually does for the economy in terms of its economic impact? Have you been able to, measure it or quantify it in any fashion? Because I'm sure there's often been questions about what is bond buying actually doing to help the economy?
Sure. So in terms of the balance sheet, those questions that you mentioned, we haven't gone back to them. Now that we've tapered, I expect that that's exactly what we'll do in coming meetings, and we'll do it in an orderly fashion. And we'll talk about reinvestment and all those things. And we don't have to make decisions on those yet. But typically when we're doing a new subject like that, we'll have a series of briefings and discussions, and that's what we will now begin to do. In terms of the effect of asset purchases on the economy, so there's a tremendous amount of research and scholarship on this, and you can kind of you can find different people coming out with different views, but I would say the most mainstream view would be that you're at the effective lower bound. So how do you affect longer term rates? There are two ways. One, so you can't lower rates. Let's say you can't lower rates any further, hypothetically. So you can give forward guidance. You can say we're going to keep the rates low for a period of time, either a specific period until certain conditions are met, the markets will do the math, and that'll have an effect on longer term borrowings, even 10, 30 years out kind of thing. So that's one thing. The other thing you can do is you just go buy those securities, buy longer term securities. That will drive down longer term rates and hold them lower. And rates right across the rate spectrum matter for borrowers. So lower rates encourage more borrowing, encourage more economic activity. People that you can service your debt, you have more free cash flow. It's not different from what we do at the short end. So that was discussed long before anybody.
What's going on? It's Donkey Kong, long time no see. How's it been? Jenny Talls, good to see you.
Did it. That was, I think Milton Friedman said that was what you could do if you were pinned at the lower bound many, many years ago. So anyway, that's how it's supposed to work. And it's quite hard to be precise about these things because you only have one economy and you can't run two different economies right next to each other and do a scientific experiment. But most of the findings are that it does support economic activity in the way that you would expect, which is to say, at the margin, more economic activity with lower rates, which is why we do what we do. More accommodative financial conditions lead to more economic activity over time with a lag. So I think that's the main finding I would say on QE.
So Fed to begin its taper, whether or not that was the overall anxiety. That's the
spot on. The Fed
that's the question right here. Is that two-touch taper? What's going on, guys? If you're just joining us, we are tracking the stocks that you guys care about. Right on the left-hand side, too, we have some major winners. We also have alerts, thanks to ChatterQuant and Lux, so we'll be able to understand exactly what to expect moving forward for the day. And luckily, you guys still have major discounts to those down in the description if you would care to get them yourself. BBBY up about 4% today. PROG, Progenity, up 15%. Two of the major winners of the day. Speaking of the opposite of major winners, we have Ocugen down nearly 20% on the day. We also have the crypto markets small pullback, 1.5% down on Ethereum and Bitcoin each. We have 11% down on SHIB. We have a Corgi right here, so he's not real happy about his brethren. The Dogecoin as well is down 3%. We're taking a look at NEO and Tesla, two of the big gains of the day. We have about 4% on NEO, and Tesla is somewhere around here. It was originally this space right here. NEO had its high about $44 earlier, now down to $43.18. Let's take a look at Tesla. Currently only about 2% up on the day. AMC did hit a high of $41.30 before taking a dip down to $39.11. Those are the highs and lows of the day. After that, an ascending trend here of support from $39 to $39.74 to $39.98. That was the last level of support right here. So currently trending right between that VWAP and the EMA, trying to fill that small gap all the way back over to the $40.50 high of the day. Jenny Talls, how are you, Andrew? What's going on? It's a good day to be here. Be careful of we were originally careful of the fact that AMC was starting to form a head and shoulders, but now we are already, seems like, it's nearly out of the woods. Jenny Tallis says CRO looking strong today. You know who else is looking strong? Meatball. We'll take a look at CRO in just a sec. Fed begins their we had a interest hike miss, just a near miss yesterday, did not happen, which means that we are continuing on until the holiday season with the economic training wheels right on us. Sean says pennant is playing out and will bounce. Let's watch GME currently in that pennant forming in the intraday. We called it out here so you guys don't have to. Look at AMD, still petering out. It looked like a potential double bottom here. Small downtrend, and now forming a W that has not yet completed its bounce. GME is now narrowly green on the day after a very impressive morning. You guys are giving me SHIB updates? Those updates are not correct. I can see it's only 14% down right now. DJ D-Wall says, "What's up, Andrew? Can you tell me where you think support is for DraftKings?" Sure, let's take a look at Lux. So we're gonna pull up that Lux algorithm. One of the best ways to be able to tell, if you don't know what stock to look at, use CheddarQuant. If you do know, but you don't know which direction they're going to go, you got to use Lux Algo. So we'll take a look at DraftKings, for example. $4.50 Prague next week. My TA says smoking or joking. Is that smoking or joking? Which one is it? DraftKings on the daily. It looks like a potential Head and Shoulders is forming almost completely finished. This looks like the end of the Head and Shoulders to me. Yeah, we're actually already nearing that final level of support right here. So after that happened, I'm assuming that we're gonna have a hint on the oscillator coming in soon. So there's a hint indicator right here. You guys can't see because it's off screen. There's a hint indicator right here of a potential reversal that ended up being consolidation, actually ended up downtrend. But as of right now, the oscillator is getting to it's near its apex. Once it gets there, it will start to taper towards the other direction. So we will slightly start to see a bottom before the first level of oversold. First oversold Bollinger here is about $37. I'm imagining we're going to be able to see it for a little bit earlier than that. So make sure to watch for anything going down to 37. I was closer to 40. The last time there was some significant support was at 42.50. But if it goes to 37, then you will be looking at 36, or 34, 31, 42. BTS Sandwich saying, feeling very much the joke today. Shibu is diluting. Those were all spelled correctly. I just cannot read right now. How does AMC look on the day chart? Wait, hold on. AMC is now coming off of that uptrend. Let's see it. $40.50 and pushing. Nearly green on the day. GME is also pushing right now. Guys, give it its full support right now. Throw out your positive... if you guys are a member of this show, you throw out your Gorillionaire stickers, you throw out your Meatball stickers, the Moneyball stickers, but whatever you guys got, throw out some scissors in the chat to cut out those hedge funds. That's right. I haven't called it for in months. Cut out those paper hands from your life. As AMC is just 0.4% away from going green. They're about to go ghost. GameStop pushes out of that pennant. Who was the very confident analyst in here in the chat earlier? Because they were absolutely right. We drew the pennant. We saw the rip. GameStop now up about 2.5%. Tiara says, a whiskey, of course. Straight from Meatball when AMC goes green. All right. If this video is making you feel like there's people to celebrate when the stocks go green, make sure you guys know that if you make the like counter equal to the people in here, that really does make Meatball's day. In fact, if you guys wouldn't mind slapping it, I'm gonna give Meatball a treat. And then I'll give him another one when AMC goes green. Here it is. Thanks, guys. Let's see if AMC got a buy signal off of that price action. This is what AMC looks like on the daily. Yeah, pretty flat. Let's go down to the 30 minutes. There we go. I could see a buy signal on that 30 minutes, depending on where. No, it's all purple. This has been a buy signal from the 1st of November, from Monday, and it's been all purple since then. Do 5 minutes? BTS says, treat that good boy. All right. Unclear AMC signals right now. Mark Baptiste, I cut these fully fools out of my life. I live for Mark Baptiste. I'm living for it, man. GameStop currently, almost at 22222. Make a wish. BTS Sandwich says, let's go Brandon. Where is Brandon? Honestly, I can't, maybe I'm not seeing every chat. Yes, I love smoking a joke and use the pog emoji. That's my favorite. Pog. Thanks, Meatball. Thanks for the lick. Thank you. Tim Felt says, good morning, Andrew. Have you taken a look at SAVA today? You may have earlier, we just got here. Let's take a quick SAVA trip into Lux algorithm. SAVA, Cassava Sciences. Look at that. $54 yesterday. Strong buy in the pre-market. You would have gotten that right before the major rip on Lux algorithm. And then a double top at 90 bucks. And that's what's gonna happen. What's gonna happen to you. But it did maintain its price action significantly throughout the trading day until now. Still currently trading at 85. So there were a couple of points where there was a hint indicator for the reversal. In fact, right here, where that first hint was, technically it did go off of its highs right around here, on 90, from about 87 bucks, dipped down to a support at around 80 bucks. So seems like it's majorly run away. Honestly, I wouldn't touch this with a 35.5 foot pole, however much long the pole was. But that's just me. I can't give you financial advice. Greetings from Austria, says Thomas. Everyday great live stream for home office. Hey! Where are my Austrians at? Oh, man. Benjamin's asking, what does Lux Algo show you? Hold on. Who was the person that bought Lux a few times ago? Not T-Sulfur. Is it this one? Nope. Okay. Well. So we're currently looking at... Let's expand this guy a little bit. We're currently looking at SAVA's buy signal right here in the very beginning of the day. So that's something that Lux Algo would provide you. In fact, let me turn it off so that you guys can see what TradingView looks like without it. So without it, you just get the price action. You get on, off, right? But if you turn it on, then you'll be able to, one, get these overbought, oversold Bollingers, these red bands right here. You'll also be able to get this, you good? You're also going to be able to get this reversal band right here, this EQ band. And then finally, you'll be able to get the oscillator to tell you when a potential MACD crossover is going to happen. And it shows this with a little red dot here for negative crossover and a green one for positive ones. So that's what it provides you. Now that said, can you read a chart without the same details? You can probably tell that a 30%, what is this, a 80% rip after a day's worth of price action is probably going to land you in the overbought territory, but you wouldn't know which band, and you wouldn't know when a potential reversal was coming. Matt Hatter says, let's go, Meatball. And yeah, once again, you guys have 20% off of Lux Algo in the description down below, as well as 30% off of Chatterquant. Kind of have my Chatterquant craving right now. I kind of love it. Tim Feld says, big Alzheimer's market. Got confirmation that data was legit and not manipulated. Ah, okay. Jenny Tall says, Andrew might have a future as a baritone post-squeeze. Tiara says, have a great day, everyone. Remember that. Skills. SKLZ. Okay. Let's take a look on the 5-minute chart. We got a strong sell signal from the aftermarkets. That has persisted through the trading day. This is off of a strong buy signal in the aftermarkets the day prior. But it looks like the buy signals come around the 1140s. And the sell signals come around the 1270s. So you never would have captured all of this price action here from 1125 at its low point 2 days ago to 1350 on its high point. Right now it seems like it's still on that sell with a potential to cross into the 1195s as a resistance. GME is the OG of rips. Look at that, 224.77 on its latest breakout from the bullish pennant we drew earlier. GameStop looking mighty sharp right now with 1.5% up. However, both of these stocks coming back down to meet some critical support. AMC did nearly break green on the day, about $40.70 before taking a return trip to the VWAP. The volumetric weighted average price will be able to provide us some guidance on where we're moving next. Remember, the EMA and the SMA are both above. BTS Sandwich says Skills is bipolar. I swear, I don't ever know what's going on. Tiara, thank you. All right, we took a look at that short interest earlier in AMC, about 16.5%. Yeah, right. Economists' take on tapering versus tightening. So that taper two-step, you guys heard about earlier. Those are the hedge fund advice for Bed Bath & Beyond and Avis. 1-2 tapers, two-step. Let's see. Jonathan Newman says, woot, yay, GME. I like that sentiment. That's a good one. I woot as well. You do a head scratch. You like that? Yeah, you do. Scratch, scratch, scratch. Now, let's see. We are taking another look at potential resistances. AMD just knocked off a new resistance at 135.78. 2 touch points. I'm tempted to add this. The beginning of some AMD analysis. We have some pretty solid support here, although it does seem to be a small ascending line here. Let's take a look at NEO. I'm cursed. It's back to 44. If we break 41, there it is. $44 was the ticket yesterday. Gosh, I wish I was here. That was a fun day. That was a fun day. Jonathan Newman says, handsome good boy. Number letter says, can Bitcoin go past 1 million? You know what? I don't want to say it can't. I don't want to say it can't, although that 1.5% dip for both Ethereum and Bitcoin have now doubled to 3% down on the day. Bitcoin getting closer to 60 grand. All right, so NEO looks like a pretty clean cut head and shoulders here. A little bit of a mess down here. This looks like a resistance right there. 1, 2, 3 touch points. Maybe I can go a little lower. There we go. 1, 2, 3, 4 touch points. That's better. And then, is this support? Yeah, that's support. Okay, that's where NEO is going to be bouncing around for the rest of the day, around 42.70-ish and 43.30-ish. I suggest TradingView if you just wanted to take a look at the stonks with a Lux Algo attachment if you want. You can also take a look. You can also use Webull. Get 2 free stocks with their link in the description. You don't have to use them to actually trade. The Fannie Mae has had a very nice Thursday. Could we have predicted this? Yeah, this is a what is this? Yeah, this is a cup. Fannie Mae performed a like intro week cup here. Double top here at 96, a small pullback right above the 50% line, then the handle was formed, and then right into a full-on rocket. Up 7% today. Smoking or Joking says, strain of the day, modified root beer. Strain, like straining, right? Like a strainer, like for pasta. And root beer, like like root beer, not real beer. All right, let's just make sure that we can take a look at Amazon too. Whoa, coming around the bend, trying to touch that VWAP here. Maybe on the hourly. Double topping a 3,400. Okay, so it didn't even reach as high as it was supposed to. Interesting. So now there's no clear resistance there. Oh, for some reason I thought this was meta. I was like, F. F stands for meta. What else? Any other notable winners or losers today? VGFV up 17% today. One of you put this on our radar from a couple days ago. I think we talked about this a couple days ago. It was still at 28 bucks. So it's about 30% up now. So this group of people picked some serious winners. But not everyone is a winner. Alright, SAVA here running right now about 55%. Ran to $100 earlier. Yeah. Careful. A falling knife comes right down through your hand. Alright, one more for Tesla. John Beedlow says, been following Astro in his game. They're confident in the cycle theory mixed with the Wyckoff theory for AMC GME. Seems like it was following it. The last 2 days are questionable. Thoughts? Yeah, if a pattern no longer seems like it's working, it doesn't mean, you know, that It doesn't mean that you are a bad person or wrong or, you know. It means that you're either part of your data was wrong or part of your logic is wrong. That's okay. But those theories I remember reading all the way back in the day. All the way back in the day. Yes. Winner chicken dinner, says Keith. BTS Sandwich never got their prize in the mail. Okay. Good note. Send me an email to remind me, BTS Sandwich. I'm an email-led person. Let's see. This is an hourly chart. Let's go down to the 5 minutes. Okay. AMC returns to the $40 support here. People, don't get anxious. Let's see. Ooh, another discount on some major tech stocks. Let's see where Netflix is today. N-E-T. Licks. 2% down. Yeah, ooh. Entire industry is hurting. Oh, hold on. Entire industry is rolling on the ground. Netflix has a pretty clear support resistance right around here. 614. Oh, it topped at 690. Nice. 690. Then finally, 3 touch points down here in this sport. But I don't think Netflix is coming back down to the 400s anytime soon. Yeah, the ship has sailed. Whoops. Oh my god. Where is the undo button? Okay, to the 30-minute. Yeah, I know. 693. Okay. Let's try to understand why PROG ran today. So we were able to track that descending level of resistance, ascending support. And then we got all the way here with this. I guess this is also a bit of a pennant. Very shallow one. We broke out. This pennant's not really coming from an uptrend, but it is descending. So descending here, and then ascending here. Not a very well formed pennant. It did rocket. So results speak for themselves. BBY still up on the day. Costco still up on the day. Let's just keep SAVA up here to track where it's going. SAV. SAVA Sciences. Hey BTS, SPY only goes up. SPY, this year has definitely been the case for that. SPY only goes up. Yeah. And Tall says Moderna price action just because of approval being delayed. Here's the problem. Is Moderna just overhyped, or is it actually reacting to the market? You okay, Meatball? You need a bath. Meatball's getting scruffy. SPY goes down, every stock goes up. Currently waiting for another potential bounce. Today has just been there's been an up-down series here. Scratchy, scratchy. Meatball loves the attention. Okay. Now that we are, let me see if I getting any alerts from. Where is ChatterQuant? There it is. ChatterQuant alert section. All right, SAVA got the alert an hour and a half ago. I'm here for that. It's also the earnings dashboard here. Argent Soon says BBBY, my second fave meme stock, very similar to GME but without Ryan Cohen and some debt. But the without Ryan Cohen thing is pretty important. Earnings releases begin Monday, November 1st. So if you have noticed, earnings have been very kind to a bunch of stocks in a row. So if you wanted to be able to, well, actually not that kind for every stock, but a good amount of the stocks that had earnings yesterday are up a significant amount. So make sure that you understand that with ChatterQuant, you'll be able to have all of this data right at your fingertips. You just watch them a day at a time. So after close today, we have Qualcomm. Sorry, that was yesterday. After close today, we have Square, Airbnb, we have Melly, we have ILMN, Carvana, Fortinet, Monster Energy Drink, Motorola. So this really helps you contextualize when are the best swings. Nice tool, and you guys got 30% off with the code in the description. First link. Groupon is on Friday. Berkshire Hathaway is tomorrow before market opens. Toyota, Honda, bunch of cars. DraftKings. Oh, the DraftKings are watch DraftKings. Harry Mouse says, you and Keenan Grace are the GOAT. Wish I listened to your video in the February. It's okay, man. It's not the February, it's the November now, which is just the perfect time to start, even if you're starting today. People, do you like skills? Do you? I'm gonna miss Meatball so much when we are in Europe, running around interviewing you guys about your financial freedom journey. So remember, that Google form in the description is specifically if you wanted to show up on the second channel. And make sure that you guys subscribe so that you catch yourselves there. Daniel Dienert is thinking about stockpile. Sure, let me ask. I always talk to the founders of these companies before I try and make a formed opinion. Get to know them, understand what they're about, do some third-party research. I'm gonna message them on Twitter. Hey guys. They want to switch. There we go. Okay, I'll talk about it in a sec. Love me some Andrew. Meatball too, says Shining Fox. Yeah, Meatball's in the perfect position. Smoke joking talking about copper. Is the crypto part of the dashboard complete yet? I think so. Crypto trends. Aha. Nope, still coming. Jeff Algier. Any thoughts on Jag X? Sure, we'll take a look in a sec. Sure thing. No problem. Okay. Let me just make a round. Do the rounds right now. Fed Chair Jerome Powell ignores mention of interest rate. I'm kind of interested in what this is. Okay. Nice. AMC taking one small bounce. GME also making it. So both of these stocks are coming around to their next level of resistance. AMC is about $40.35. GME is about 222 and change. 222.27. Sean says NBA announced multi-year partnerships with DraftKings and FanDuel, both co-official sports being partners of the NBA. Remember, DraftKings having their earnings coming out. Rebound in travel. Oh yeah, someone was asking about Moderna. Looks like Jim has a new take as of 40 minutes ago. All right, let's take a look. GME NFT
Not
announcement.
only is it a miss, revenue was light, and their guidance on COVID revenue, Jim, is below the street. They're blaming some supply constraints on international deliveries.
Yeah, I thought it was interesting that people get these press releases, and this one was buried. You read about the problems there pretty late in the game here. And what bothers me was is that they put all these other great things before they have the 2021 update about personal vaccines and stuff like that, and you're all excited, and then you get to the just bomb dropping here. But they did, some people would say, look, some of it's delayed to next year, but this has turned out to be a young company. David, Pfizer, not a young company. Merck, not a young company. They seem to know how to handle volume.
Is that what the issue is? Just how to handle the volume?
Yeah, I think so.
You do?
I think
it's not as demand-based?
It's hard to be as predictive if you just...
Right.
Before we too hard on this guy, Bancel, let's remember what they did.
Incredible.
They were the first one to have a shot. It was the actual bottom of the stock market. The actual bottom that day. They said, we have had a trial with one person. Well, so now they're sending just a huge number of these, so I don't want to be too critical of those. But it does remind you that when you're investing with a young company, you have to accept the fact that maybe they could cut their forecast without reasoning that we would think, which is like, how could you not know? supply chain. You think who has supply chain problems like them? I mean, who knows what they have to produce? So anyway, I guess what I'm saying is let's look at them a little more kindly. But the stock has had such a run that people are looking for a reason to.
It has. Although the stock did remember that week in which, when we first got the very positive phase 3 results on molnupiravir, and Merck stocks soared, Moderna began a sell-off then as well.
That was the beginning.
Should point out, by the way, since we've been following it, or certainly closely, molnupiravir is called Blagavrio in the UK. Approved.
I thought that was great.
Approved. So the first oral antiviral will be available in the UK within days. There it is. So, they said safe and effective 7 different times in their press release announcing it.
That's terrific news.
November 30th is when our own FDA.
By the way, Regeneron had good numbers and talked about their cocktail.
Yep.
I did think for the irony part here, so Moderna talks about when it's late, and then 3 paragraphs later, a share repurchase program of up to $1 billion. But the stock's falling more than the repurchase.
Yes, it is.
Get in there, buy.
Get in there, buy.
Shepard Smith here. Thanks for watching.
Thanks, Shep. So one of the things I want to talk about is Meta.
Welcome back to Squawk. We have some breaking news that's just coming in right now from the White House that we need to tell you about. It's releasing the details surrounding 2 COVID-19 vaccination policies. Companies with 100 or more employees are going to have to require workers to be vaccinated or be tested on a weekly basis. Companies will have to provide paid time off for workers to be vaccinated and ensure that unvaccinated workers wear face masks. And workers at health facilities that participate in Medicare and Medicaid will need to be fully vaccinated, Joe. It also appears that the deadline has been pushed back a little bit here as well. So the original deadline was looking at December 8th. Now it's looking like it may get pushed past the holidays here to January 4th. We'll bring you more on this news as we get it. But right now I want to pivot to talk about the world of gaming, because shares of Take-Two Interactive trading up this morning. Gaming company beating the street with its latest quarterly results, and it's raising its outlook. Joining us right now to discuss the business and Take-Two's role in, yes, the metaverse, Strauss Zelnick, Chairman and CEO of Take-Two Interactive. Strauss, it's great to see you. We've been talking about a theme that seems to be emerging in the markets, maybe more than the economy, but you can speak to it, about sort of what were pandemic plays, and the acceleration that took place during the pandemic, both in the stock prices of some of these companies and, of course, in the earnings of these companies, and what happens post-pandemic. And you're one of those companies I think straddles and sits right in the middle of it. So what are you seeing?
Well, what I said during the pandemic was we expected post-pandemic demand
Kristen
to be
Gallo,
higher than
what? You're fired?
and lower than during the pandemic, just because people were sheltering at home. And I think that at first turned out to be true. And now, as we reach what appears to be a new normal, demand is actually higher than during the pandemic in certain instances. So in this quarter, for example, we comped well. We were up 3% year over year, and recurrent consumer spending was up 7%. Year over year, we had expected that to decline 11%. So at least we are doing somewhat better than expected, and we're really pleased about that. And I think that reflects the broader interactive entertainment economy as well, as long as you give people what they want, of course.
I mentioned at the top of the phrase metaverse, which now may or may not have been commandeered by Mark Zuckerberg, given that he's changed the whole name of the company to Meta.
Yeah.
But you've often talked about how you think that your company may have been one of the first to the metaverse's dance, if you will.
Well, look, it all depends how you define it. If you define metaverse as we are going to transition from a physical environment to a digital one in all of our daily activities, I remain pretty skeptical. If you define metaverse as the new version of Second Life, I'm really skeptical. If, however, you describe metaverse as a digital location that we can go to be entertained, to connect with other people, to talk, to play, to drive cars, to engage in criminal activity, to be the police that stops that criminal activity, and you have
to
fun
engage
along the
in
way.
criminal activity.
Well, we're already in that business, and I would argue we're probably the biggest metaverse company on earth if you look in terms of revenue and profits, because we're in Grand Theft Auto Online, which really I think defines the metaverse today, Red Dead Online, and NBA 2K's online version. So we're already there. We're really excited. And we see at least one expression of what it means to be a metaverse at our company right now. What the future holds remains to be seen. As I said, I'm skeptical that we're going to wake up in the morning and intentionally sit at home, strap on headsets, and conduct all of our daily activities that way.
Why are
we
you
had
skeptical?
to do that during the pandemic, and we didn't really like it so much.
Yeah. Why be skeptical? That sounds like it's possible. Okay, one
Down
more
in the New
news.
York Stock Exchange, Qualcomm looks like it's up like $15 pre-market. Jim, what this chip maker? What's the deal?
Well, first they had it was a blowout quarter. They had no chip shortages. They are just killing it with Android. The company itself, I think, is in the driver's seat more than almost every other semiconductor right now because they have both Apple and they have Android. They also have a lot of Chinese phone companies. They're in everybody. And they're also moving in aggressively to IoT and auto. This is a company that is very, very smart that the street just got completely wrong. I think up 15 is not nearly enough, frankly.
Really? So who's like Qualcomm and who's the anti-Qualcomm in as far as chips go? Can we tell?
Well, like Qualcomm, but not in high performance computing is AMD, and then of course the Saint at NVIDIA. It's my favorite stock. And then
That's
the
his
guys
favorite
who
stock.
are Skyworks, but Skyworks people think losing share to Qualcomm. Not sure about that. Qorvo, but people think Qorvo losing share to Qualcomm. So we got some downgrades to Qorvo. But Qualcomm is really a remarkable company. It plays hardball against everybody and tends to win, even though they are some of the nicest people I've ever met in the business.
Well,
that's why I'm thrilled to have Cristiano coming on. Everyone calls him Cristiano. I don't know anyone calls him by his last name. It's like, sure.
Someday we got to have a conversation about Taiwan and China and Mark Mobius. I asked him. He says, "Oh, I'm loaded up on Taiwan," and I'm like, "Are you sure that's okay?" He goes, "Yeah, we're watching, but I mean, who knows, right?"
He's he likes flyovers. He likes the maneuvers that the PRC is doing in the couple of islands nearby.
I mean, it matters.
I'm not as high on that.
It matters. We may need to build a few foundries, I think. Thanks, Jim.
Well, he's an optimist,
We got Thunderjumper saying, "Where's the Cops DLC for my GTA 5 then? Come on, let's be real. Be serious here." Okay, final. I don't think. Actually, that's it. I think we're set. Now let's see. Can we focus on what the last thing that we heard about having a focus for ESG? So we saw videos about ESG from yesterday. There's a
We often
real
talk about
quick
ESG
focus here
investing,
today.
but the strategy could come with a cost. Christina Partsenevelos joins us now with the story of what you might call greenflation, among other things to think about. Christina, I hope we are.
Well, I'm going to get to those numbers to see if we are or not, but Americans get roughly about 80% of their energy from fossil fuels, such as coal, petroleum, and natural gas. And with so many itching to travel right now, demand for oil is expected to keep rising in the years ahead. But analysts at JP Morgan say right now as much as $600 billion must be invested in oil by 2030 to keep up with demand. But you've got banks, firms like BlackRock, funds like the Harvard Endowment Fund, who promise not to do as much traditional energy investing as they once did, preferring to focus on renewable energy sources that aren't as damaging to the environment. But a focus on ESG, environmental, social, and governance, is driving a credit crunch for oil and gas companies. And some argue that transition isn't cheap.
The problem with ESG is it's promising cake with no calories, all the good stuff with no sacrifice. And let's face it, being good will cost you.
With clean energy initiatives and supply chain issues, prices have soared for green energy raw materials like aluminum and uranium, helping the stock prices of aluminum producers like Alcoa and Uranium Energy Corporation. You can see on your screen, both up well over 100% this year so far. But coal-related job losses loom in energy-producing states like North Dakota and Wyoming, for example. And you can see this bar chart on your screen, just how many coal mines actually remain in the United States over the past decade. But many argue the short-term losses will be offset by increases in carbon-low sectors like solar and the electric grid. Listen in.
I think it's important to note that those increased investments in infrastructure will be outweighed by decreases in costs of energy. So the overall system-wide cost of electricity should be balanced out.
Companies that fall behind the green technology curve or stick to dirty sectors could see their access to capital markets turned off. But ESG advocates say the short-term costs, as we just heard, are just a feature of going green.
That's it. Okay. All right, Microsoft, some news coming in.
The Climate Summit continues in Scotland today with a number of companies announcing partnerships and deals surrounding clean energy. I want to go to straight Diana Olick, who joins us across the pond with a few headlines. Good morning.
Good morning, Andrew. That's right. Today is Energy Day at COP, and it's starting with reports that at least 19 countries are committing to stop public financing for fossil fuel projects abroad by the end of next year. These may include the U.S., UK, Denmark, and some developing countries. At COP on phasing out coal have already been explained, and they're creating big opportunities for clean energy providers like AES. It provides clean electricity to data centers, which are huge consumers of power. Just yesterday, it announced a 15-year deal with Microsoft to provide renewable energy for all of its data centers in Virginia. 70% of the world's internet traffic passes through Virginia data centers.
And if you look at the number of countries that made new commitments that accelerated their target dates, that's already huge progress. But also this year is the first year where COP really worked to include more businesses as part of the program.
After falling last year due to COVID, global electricity demand is expected to jump close to 5% this year and by 4% in 2022, according to the IEA. The amount of electricity generated from renewables should increase by 8% this year and more than 9% next year, but renewables would likely only be able to serve about half of that global demand.
So data centers today are already 3% of global energy demand. And these cloud businesses are growing 50 to 100% per year. So they will be a big segment of the energy consumption in the world in a few years. The good thing is that all of the big players have already committed to 100% renewable energy.
And Moreno said to expect more announcements of more deals coming soon. Back to you guys.
Okay, Diana, thank you for that report. We'll talk to you very soon.
All right. So, let me give Meatball a well-deserved break.
Completing its long-awaited spinoff of Kyndryl, that's Kyndryl, symbol KD, with the new company set to begin trading here on the New York Stock Exchange today. Joining us now, first on CNBC is Kyndryl Chairman and CEO Martin Schroeder, formerly of IBM, and this is the spinoff of IBM. Martin, it is great to see you. Congratulations on ringing the bell, and tell us exactly what Kyndryl will be doing.
Thank you, Jim. Thank you. It's a pleasure to be here. I really appreciate the opportunity. Look, we start life, Jim, as 88,477 of the best digital engineers on the planet running the world's infrastructure today. We're the biggest in the space. We've got a great set of intellectual property. We've got great relationships with our customers, and we're really excited about the ability to invest we now have, and we're really excited about the freedom of action we get to go participate in that market ecosystem that our customers have been asking us to do. So
BTS Sandwich says, because they're trying so hard to get you to, and it weirds them, a weird BTS Sandwich out. They don't care about you, they care about them and their money. It's been proven time and time again, they do not have people's best interests in their mind unless it somehow also serves their interests. Pay attention. Let's see. ANY News. Let me see.
We're really excited about our path from here.
Well, let's drill down on that freedom of action. On your website, you say, as an independent company, Kyndryl will partner with industry IT leaders in addition to IBM. Well, I presume that means an Amazon, a Google, it could be even Azure. And will that make it so your total addressable market is far bigger than you currently have?
Yeah, that's exactly right, Jim. So first and foremost, IBM is a great partner of ours, and we will continue to partner really, really well with IBM.
Sphere 3D ANY, the largest Bitcoin green miner, are actively mining. Merger date announced, pre-merger dividend, and Elon Musk Tesla as board member. Okay, so this is from 2 hours ago. ANY just caught a 9% rip. Pay attention to that. We were also following SAVA is now down to $80. We were watching at 90 just a few minutes ago. Honestly, you know, if you were practicing buying some puts, that would have been a fairly okay put, or selling calls. Either way, both of those would have been pretty decent bets in either direction. Let's see, ANY. Off of its high of $7.23. Yeah, it's probably going to remain in this general hyperinflated state for the rest of the day. Whether or not this is the real price of the stock is the better question. All right, back to it.
With our customers, because we still have highly complementary skill sets, highly complementary offerings. But at the same time now, we get to now go partner with other hyperscale cloud providers. We get to partner with other platform providers. We get to partner with other application vendors, and of course, a whole range of other systems integrators. So we really now join that market ecosystem that our customers are using every day, the ones that our customers are saying, you know, can you help us in this space? Can you help us with this hyperscale provider? So it's a really big deal for us, and it does allow now our market to basically double from where we sit today.
Well, I like all that, but then I was kind of off-put by this line in the Wall Street Journal story saying that you don't expect to show revenue growth until 2025. I mean, if you've got a total addressable market that can double, I'm surprised that you are so downbeat about when you can turn revenue growth.
Yeah, look, the business, Jim, has been on a sort of a 5-6% decline, and it's very much it's sort of a backlog-driven business. So
this community called it first. Moon Platoon members were talking about SHIB down 20%, but now it seems like it's caught an uptrend. Shiba is now trying its best to crawl back to a pretty significant resistance. This was caught support at, I'm going to say, 45. So now it's coming back up to 45.38. Where is that AMC? There it is.
So as we rebuild that backlog, which will take some
What's
time,
up, Richard?
And again, we're running hearts and lungs of our customers' infrastructures.
Keith Cloverdale says, "Thank you, bro. I love how you actually respond. Would love to meet up in Vegas after MOAS to cut loose and spend some time with these gains. You the man, Mo." Thank you, Keith Cloverdale. Always a pleasure to talk to you guys, because you guys are OG Moon Platoon members and you guys care.
So these are, long sell cycles. We have to develop these relationships in the ecosystem. And then really importantly, we have to start making our investments to move our skills, to move our labor pools into those faster growing areas. So this will take us a little bit of time to stabilize the business and then return to growth. But because of this services nature of the business, once we get that flywheel going, we're going to see a nice, good, long stretch of growth in front of us in that market.
Well, I know sales is important for growth stock investors, but I have to believe that now separated from IBM, that your gross margins can expand, operating margins can expand, maybe high single digits.
Yeah, look, we see an opportunity here to really do both, to stabilize the revenue base and to continue to improve our margin base. But we're also going to be investing quite heavily. So we're really focused on where margins are going to be in, say, 24, 25, more so than we are where they are going to be 22, 23. We have to invest here in order to get back to growth. That is our focus.
Alrighty. NRDS is the question right now. So it looks like you guys are actively asking the right questions. Bring in your stocks so that we can keep an eye on it. These are the alert system that comes from the heart, from the Moon Platoon. NerdWallet seems like they just started trading. Honestly, I love NerdWallet's products. Always thought that they were a really good bunch. NerdWallet IPO, when does it go public? Looks like it went public at $18 a share. Already up nearly 100%. Makes sense, but it is going to go wild for a couple of days. Remember, Coinbase, don't get burned on the way down. Is NerdWallet truly worth double its original valuation? That's for you to decide one day after analysts put NerdWallet at $18 a share. Okay, but we can make sure we pay attention to it because it is one of the big winners of the day. Cameron says, "Can you believe this price action, big dog?" Absolutely not. Is this an ASMR channel with dog drinking? I didn't think you guys could hear that. Sorry. Meatball's just going to town on the water bowl. Did not realize. Tyler Fraker, missed you over the last couple of months. Glad to be here for this run up. And take a look at SPIR when you get a chance. Sure thing. SPIR. Let's put it over here. NerdWallet has been halted, I think, for dipping too much below its, dipping too much from its high, 34.44. Yeah, just dipped 10% from that high. But that's actually, so this is 12 bucks. So that was actually like 20%. So SPIR. %5 up, but it was up 10%, seems like. After a bullish pennant in the extended market. Look at this. Look at that. That's a beautiful pennant right there. Beautiful breakout. And then after it doubled at 645, interesting that it couldn't even match the same highs. SPIR seems like it has decompressed. It seems like it has now had time to consolidate. If it returns back to its support, it likely will face a solid bounce. 595, about 20 cents away. Jason Trader, thanks for the insight. It keeps halting. Yeah. NerdWallet. Going up, down all day. Keith says SPR is supposedly going to squeeze soon. A squeeze. Ford's CFO explains Ford's EV spending plan. Oh yeah, Qualcomm CEO on chip demand. So Qualcomm, I believe, is one of the big gains today. Cute. Yo. Man. I need to text my friend who was in Qualcomm. You are big today. Whoa. Look at Qualcomm. October is actually cursed. November is the month to make plays, baby. Cameron says, I miss coming in here, man. I used to be here every day. Had a kid in July. Thanks for continuing to fight for retail. Cameron, first of all, congrats on your kid. What's their name? Stunk? Or just a normal name? But first of all, congrats on the Moon Platoon, baby. And second of all, welcome back. Always happy to be here. Always happy to have you guys here. Andrew, do you think you can do a space call? Like that's one small call for man, one giant leap for mankind. I didn't do any hand stuff. If I put my hands over my mouth, that'd be better. Wow, Qualcomm got all the way up to 159. What about PROG? We did some PROG analysis earlier in this stream. You'll find that we'll probably double up on a lot of analysis today. Oh, let me see. Ouch. Ow. Boom, boom. Boom, boom. Boom, boom. Boom, boom. Oh. Let me see. Meatball. What do you got there? You want to share? He's always eating something and he never shares with me. Okay, hold on. Let me see. Let me see. What do you think about just SBEA Silverbox Engage? Is it a coffee company that supports vets? Let me take a look. We talked about that coffee company earlier. Talked about the technicals. Hard to analyze without more data. Keith Cloverdale says, let me get a shout out to my daughter, aka Baby Diamond Hands. She's turning 1 on Saturday. First of all, happy birthday to your daughter. You clip this somehow? Happy birthday to you. Happy birthday to you. Happy birthday, Keith Cloverdale's daughter. Happy birthday, man. Time to buy Nvidia or wait. Let me see. But that's Jim Cramer's favorite stock. NVID. Nvidia. Nvidia up 12%. Wow, these are major gains today. Look at that. Qualcomm up 12%, Nvidia up 11%. That's kind of insanity. Look at it go. 252. 252 as early as a week ago. If only someone said November was going to be this lit. Absolutely. So if you guys are feeling the FOMO, like me, and you want to know when are the other major breakouts coming, well, one of the easiest ways is to be able to use ChatterQuant's many different alert systems. There's the earnings dashboard here. There's also the actual just alert system. There's options. There's the options chain suspicious activity alert system. Like, it's just a really good tool. I heard that trades low, said a lot, so it's just a good tool, and it's in the description down below for 30% off. Did I talk about AMD today? Yeah, AMD was on the screen for a while. We also had a couple of sound bites about AMD. Okay, let's just take a look at which companies are having their earnings right now. So Square is after close, Airbnb is after close, Mercado Libre is after close, Uber is after close. Okay, so let's look at those stocks specifically to make sure that we don't miss out on another mad rip. This is Nvidia. Let me take a look at Uber. All right, Uber. What, did I not think it's gonna beat? Uber looks like it's gonna beat. Wow, Uber up to a low of 42.30 all the way up to a high of 46.75. A little bipolar. Mark Baptiste says, "Get to the chopper, fooly fools. GME boom boom." GME moving on up. One green candle. Can we say one green candle right now? Okay. Looking at Airbnb as well. That's earnings coming after hours. Aw, Kristen, happy birthday to your kiddo. Hey, HBD, guys. Lux Algo is just a significantly better product. Let me be clear. It's significantly better, has way more features as well as more accurate features. That's the more important part. If you don't care about what it does for you, at least care about whether or not it's accurate. Let's see. Airbnb reached a new high, also trending up on the day. Looks like a positive beat is going to influence Airbnb in a good way. So looks like people got overly bullish on Airbnb. Return on capital employed overview. Let me see if I can get an Airbnb vid. Okay, so those are the stocks that are going to be facing an earnings later today. Oh, that knocking. Sorry, guys. Okay, let's see. Let me see if we can get one more vid about Qualcomm. So we didn't start that video about Qualcomm yet.
Let's start there on the supply chain because you did seem to navigate it in a way perhaps that some of your competitors were unable to. You even said on the call, we were able to work through the supply constraints to address the demand that came up. Give me a little more meat on that bone. What were you able to work through to make sure you were able to meet all the demand?
All right, well, good to see you all. Very happy to be here. Very happy day for Qualcomm. But look, supply, Dave, it worked exactly as we planned. If you'll remember, a couple earnings calls ago, we had said scale helps. We addressed the issue early. We had a number of designed of our products in multi-sourcing. We even multi-source leading node technology. We announced like 3 new products that are a result of multi-sourcing. We put capacity plans in place, and it's working exactly as we planned. We said that we'll see material supply improvements towards the end of the calendar year, and it's kind of reflected in our guide.
Right, so you're going to continue to navigate it well. I mean, your CFO on the call did say you still have constraints across the board, and you have to figure out how the demand would have played out if there was supply across the industry. And I'm just curious, does that mean that there's even more potential demand as we move towards into next year?
Yes, and look, it's the reality is, if we look at where we are like today, we had great Q4 quarter. But, we're still short, as we're going to see supplies substantially improving at the end of the calendar year, as well as we get into 2022. But there's more demand than supply. And I think that's Akash has outlined in the call, as we go into Q1, we could grow more in especially some of the new revenue streams and, the new growth areas outside handsets. But we have an incredible opportunity with Android, and we have been prioritizing, the supply we have where we get the most return.
Yeah, well, those new opportunities you mentioned, and obviously I noted this earlier in our conversation about this. 38% of revenue is coming from non-handset related sources. How much and where do you feel comfortable with that going? Is it going to be above that? Could it ever be 50-50?
I think while we're not making that prediction right now, I think we're going to provide a lot of details about that in the New York Analyst Day, November 16th. But here's what I wanted to highlight. By all counts, our diversification strategy is working. And it's working because at the end of the day, the market is moving to a roadmap. We're winning with technology. And if 38%, doesn't indicate that the diversification is really working, I don't know what it doesn't. But the important thing to answer your question is, we have now many great vectors of growth in addition to handsets. If you remember the last earnings call, not this one, the one before, we said that the growth business are growing at 1.6 times the handset business, and the handset business is on fire because we have the first inning of 5G, we have the incredible Android opportunity. And now we created a number of growth vectors for the company, for markets that are growing much faster than handsets. We have the conversions of phones and PCs. We have invested early. We've been talking for years about virtual reality, augmented reality. Facebook changed their company name because of the success of Oculus. We're the company, behind all of those devices, whether it's Facebook devices, Microsoft HoloLens. That's a great vector of growth for us. And we have IoT. And if you believe in the cloud economy, you believe in the Qualcomm, IoT, connecting all of those devices to the cloud. And that could represent much larger percent of revenues as we mature those markets.
Now, Cristiano, Jim, really thrilled that you did the Veoneer deal, which is going to be for assisted drive. Nuvia is also a great deal, but what I'm interested in, and I think people should know this, is that you really have a hammerlock on pretty much everybody in cell. You have Apple, it's mentioned on the call, so I'll mention it. But you also have Android. Can you tell people how big Android is? Because I think people somehow think that Apple's much bigger than Android.
Android is doing great, and what happened is because of our technology roadmap, the Snapdragon, especially our 800 series, became synonymous with premium flagship devices. You see this on the Galaxy GS21, you see on the Fold, you see on the Flip. New form factors are coming up. I think Samsung's been very successful with the bigger screens, the flip phone. We're seeing new companies like Xiaomi. All of a sudden, Xiaomi is now number 2 OEM in the world, number 1 in Europe. Android is growing. I think the 5G has the potential to continue to change the landscape in the mobile market. And we saw with the what happened in the shift across OEMs, an incredible opportunity for us to grow faster than the market. The market in mobile grows in single digits. We're growing much faster. We're growing share within the Android premium and high tier. And, it's important to highlight, when we sell a Snapdragon mobile platform 800, there's a lot more silicon content than selling a modem. So we just one single Snapdragon 800 device replace a lot of devices with modem. We have more silicon content, more revenue and earnings, and we're very happy with the mobile landscape right now.
Okay, that's the Qualcomm CEO. Looks like 12% up for Qualcomm being explained
back on the show.
pretty well.
Which leads me to the glaring omission from the
Hold on a
statement.
second. So, let me clear this. Whoops. Clearing it too much. Empty glass half full. Boom boom candles loading. Let's see. Coffee on LinkedIn post serving ice cream and coffee at Citadel in Chicago for the past week straight. Check it out. Don't know what to think. Coffee on LinkedIn. Okay. Let me do a little bit of digging, but first, I was like, these two are way too similar. Maybe it's the same chart being pulled up twice, but no, it's GME and AMC side by side. AMC is nearly running green, but that is the first 3 hours of the trading day. And I want to say thank you guys. I want to say thank you guys for chilling with us, spending the time with us. We will be back. We will have a video explaining what happened on the rest of the day, and we will be looking at you guys to make sure that you're defeating the algorithm with us and helping us get it to 120,000 subscribers by smashing that subscribe button. You can do it right now, just for fun. If you guys found some entertainment or found some exciting information in this video, hopefully you guys pay it forward, drop a like, and hit that join button if you guys want to join the many members and patrons of this community, the Moon Platoon. Thank you guys. We'll catch you guys in the next stream. Thank you for watching, and we'll see you in the money. Peace.